And we are live. Hello, hello. Just getting things set up here. There we go. Masked Canadian avatar is on screen tonight. By suggestion by Yukon Steph on X, said, I gotta watch this movie called Enjoy the Show from Tori Says. Ex-NSA and CIA, similar to Snowden. I wasn't sure, but then I saw she said that she helped engineer Ukraine's elections, the corrupt coup that happened in the Maidan in, what was that, 2017? So, why mess around? Let's get on with the show. I might stop to comment. Certainly be taking chats and putting them up on screen.
People who work with government agencies like the CIA know the power of Hollywood entertainment and use it for control. Psychological operations, PSYOPs for short, have their own divisions in the U.S. military and are used by agencies to manipulate what you know.
Good evening, I'm Ron Burgundy.
Entertainment, news, and media are the front lines of the new war. A fifth-generation war of perceptions. How agencies and governments maintain power and control of you. How do I know this? I trained with the NSA in the same underground bunker in Hawaii where Snowden was. My career accelerated through a lengthy list of roles and assignments in privatized intelligence and unknown agencies. I ended up on suicide missions around the world. I was to be in Benghazi during the horrific siege. I knew the people there. I helped coordinate the logistics. But my plans changed, miraculously.
We're all hoping you'll be on your best behavior here in Pakistan.
To take down nations, you first break their elections. And if that doesn't work, agencies come in with guns blazing and allege something happened. I know, because I helped fix 45 elections around the world, most notably Ukraine. The Bush and Obama administrations intervened in elections for decades. The agencies got the work done. I got the work done. The State Department, under the guise of spreading freedom and democracy, was actually overthrowing governments through infiltration. Using PSYOPs. Acting like you were there to help, but actually rigging elections, inciting protests, riots, and at times, armed violence. But I decided to leave the power structure running the world. I'm Tori Says. I educate the people to help them take back their power. You need to understand that you've been toyed with, your psychology hacked like a computer. The agencies have done cultural infiltration of entertainment, news, and media in the United States of America. It's time you learn about these weapons of war, privatized to corporations and now being used on you. Psychological operations, manipulating information to control you and your governments. This is a rare sneak peek behind the curtain of how governments and their intelligence agencies deceive and manipulate you. Enjoy the show. The movie you have been watching and participating in. The question you should ask is, who is running the show? Decision time. Spectator or participant? How do you wake up the population? The United States of America is a unique nation with a constitution that preserves rights for its citizens. It's we, the people, who tell the government what they can and can't do, not the other way around. This is freedom. Freedom from oppressive government. Yet its citizens have been betrayed through subversion of their constitutional rights. This change has been witnessed around the world, and citizens let it happen. The violation of our laws by the fourth unelected branch of government, not elected, but selected. Those seeking a democratic world order sought to convert a free nation into a totalitarian state. And too many in the agency apparatuses are helping. Compromised representatives make the United States look weak.
Bird bath or privilege scrub. They're the two exercises we're engaged, bathing exercises we're engaged in.
We have weak leadership.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
The absurdity and stupidity is what causes you to disengage from caring about your government. This is intentional. Now imagine you're an enemy of the United States. Those who oppose free citizens, they observe and think that the people of the United States of America are stupid, weak. Therefore, it's time to attack. As warfare is evolving, let me repeat, the constitutional laws that protect the citizens of the United States have been violated. This is an act of war on the people for decades of controlled candidates in Congress and presidents who built up the agencies. The fourth unelected branch of government.
Thanks for that, Steph.
A tank?
I think I got the telegram.
This is a Russian PT-76, the current Red Army amphibious tank. You could say that it was obtained, all 15 tons of it, through intelligence channels. Or you could say we stole it. Once upon a time, spying or espionage was a fairly straightforward game. But we have come a long way rather quickly from Mata Hari. There is something new in the science of spying. It's not just stealing military hardware and secret plans, but using tanks and plans and men to promote our policies around the world and sometimes to overthrow governments we don't like. Overthrow governments we don't like.
How do you destroy a tank? You destroy a tank from the inside. To invade and destroy the United States, you must infiltrate and attack from within. What becomes of a world without the U.S. Constitution? Who is infiltrating the United States of America? To understand how, we have to go back and take a good look at our history.
Man, I got to get on her radar. It'd be fun making films for her.
We've got a revealing look inside of one of Hollywood's biggest talent agencies and some of the people who helped shape A-list careers.
They have packaged some of the most successful movies ever made, booked the world's highest grossing concerts, and they control the profitable domain of television.
20 years ago, an industry phenomenon was formed by a band of renegade agents from the bowels of the formidable William Morris Agency.
Very few people outside of Hollywood know what CA is, or those initials, and yet It follows us all day.
CIA, isn't that place in Langley?
No. You mean where everybody spies on each other?
It's CIA.
I really thought there were only two agencies. One was the KGB and one was the CIA.
The Creative Artists Agency, better known as CAA, just finished construction on a brand new building in Century City, not far from Los Angeles, California. The building is architecturally stunning and has been hailed as a new Death Star, complete with super weapons to destroy its competition.
People love to make a big deal out of an event like this. It's the Hollywood-Washington connection, West Coast, East Coast, whatever it is. People love to make a big deal out of it. And I think it's in part because of some of the similarities between your world and the political world.
I also want to say a special word of thanks to so many of you in this audience who worked for me in the last election, who made appearances.
What got you thinking there, Lauren?
Helped to raise funds.
Quantum Padawan.
Helped to make arguments, and who stood up for me in the face of pretty wilting criticism. When I was upstairs meeting some of you, it was interesting to me what was mentioned going through the lines. Some people said, I'm really glad you fought so hard for NAFTA and passed it. Others said, I'm glad you're trying to get a new World Trade Agreement through GATT, but I'm glad you're fighting for the interest of the entertainment industry while you're doing it.
On behalf of Ron Meyer, Bill Haber, and the entire CA family, it is our honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Do you think I don't know these people? I'm not looking at this from the outside. I have a lot of experience.
Haha, Andre.
I know she's married to a CIA agent. Do the math. Who's behind Time's Up? CAA. Where do they meet? CAA. Who needs good PR? CAA. Who are part of the pimp problem? CAA.
These are very powerful people you're talking about.
They are. So am I.
Yeah, Lauren, you got to credit Yukon Steph on X
It's a
for
commonly
the idea to
known
watch
fact
this.
that all technology is weaponized for war. The film projector doesn't get enough credit. Before
Mary
the United States
Angela.
entered World
Hey,
War
it's been
II,
too long.
what was then the War
Nice that,
Department worked with Hollywood to produce
Someone's
movies
still watching on
that
YouTube.
promoted military
We've
action
given up on
and
it.
recruitment.
It's just so
They
censorious,
won Best
and they
Picture in
refuse to monetize it.
1929 for Wings at the first Academy Awards. It was clear propaganda films would be a major tool in the conflict for the military.
Why are we Americans on the march? Is it because of Holland, Greece, or Russia?
During this time, Hollywood produced a number of pro-Soviet films to promote their stance against the Nazis.
If the Nazi dead had read his War and Peace, they would have known their fate beforehand.
Greetings, Commissar.
What? Today?
Our pleasure, Lauren.
They are dead.
The Gestapo.
Mary Angela, I've been hiding out in the U.S.
Is to replace
Good
those
plan.
agents and continue the flow of vital information.
What a girl.
It would be very nice to hear, even in Moscow.
Yeah, Moscow. I've been thinking of hiding out in Russia.
An American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima.
Almost immediately after the war, tensions flared up about communists in Hollywood. Congress immediately sought to identify them and remove their influence over films through what would be known as McCarthyism.
Americans feared red subversion. Congress revived the House Committee on Un-American Activities. In 1947, the committee investigated Hollywood, factory of America's imagination.
There has been a small group within the Screen Actors Guild which has consistently opposed the policy of the Guild board and officers or the Guild itself as evidenced by the vote on various issues. That small
Fact checking, yeah, no kidding.
Has been referred to, has been discussed as more or less following the tactics that we...
Yeah, might see you there one day, Mariangela. I'm on day 12 of my Duolingo Russian courses.
It was, of course, a very big day in the history of Fulton, Missouri, when President Truman and Winston Churchill paid their visit.
One of the great privileges of my lifetime to be able to present to you that great world citizen, Winston Churchill.
This means a special relationship between the British Commonwealth and Empire and the United States of America.
Global governance. It's not a new concept or recent. In fact, it was when our nation was really captured with the creation of the CIA. During World War II, the need for unified intelligence operations led to the formation of the Office of Strategic Services, which was modeled after British intelligence.
It was considered to be a very sort of chic thing to do, to belong to the OSS. There were Morgans and Vanderbilts and all sorts of society names.
America's social elite and top minds were recruited, as well as burglars and conmen. As the war on communism intensified, it was clear that the Western spies and intelligence departments had fallen behind the Soviets' KGB. So the National Security Act of 1947 was signed to solidify the importance of spy work. Under the new name, the Central Intelligence Agency, better known as CIA.
From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent.
The world citizen.
Good night, Lauren. Thanks
Winston
for joining.
Churchill
Yeah, this is a long
gave
one.
birth
It's
to
2
the
hours,
notion,
so
Iron Curtain.
settle down with popcorn for this one. Or visit the original poster.
They
Tori
created
says.
down. All scripted, all a facade. They controlled the narrative and the counter-narrative. Music is a weapon of choice. Music sets the mood. Music influences your state of being. PSYOPs.
Yeah, she sounds like a CIA agent. Music is at the zoo. She's all like, yeah.
The CIA, for 20 years until their program was discovered, were secretly promoting certain artists and intellectuals and musicians and historians and philosophers and writers in a covert way as a kind of collective cultural NATO.
The Soviets early in the Cold War years, as well as communists in other countries, mocked the United States as a cultural wasteland. They would point to Soviet art, cinema, literature, and dance as evidence of the cultural depth of the communist state. What, they asked, did the bastion of capitalism and individual freedom have to offer?
Hey, easy there, Andre. Let's not jump right to the end there.
Thomas Braden, a former CIA officer, wrote in the Saturday Evening Post, "I remember the enormous joy I got when the Boston Symphony Orchestra won more acclaim for the U.S. in Paris than John Foster Dulles or Dwight D. Eisenhower could have ever bought with 100 speeches." And then there was Encounter, the magazine published in England dedicated to the proposition that cultural achievement and political freedom were interdependent. Money for both the orchestra's tour and the magazine's publication came from the CIA, and few outside the CIA knew that. We had placed one agent in a Europe-based organization of intellectuals called Congress for Cultural Freedom. Another agent became the editor of Encounter. The agents could not only propose anti-communist
But it's never a bad idea to
the
keep
official leaders of
talk
organizations,
about Jews
but they could also
to a
suggest
minimum.
ways and means to solve the inevitable
Someday we'll do a
budgetary
special
problem.
show on that.
Why not see if the needed money could be obtained from American foundations? As the agents knew, the CIA financed foundations, and they were quite generous when it came to national interests.
In truth, since its beginning, CIA has suffered from a personality split, for in addition to intelligence, the Security Act of 1947 ordered CIA to perform other functions and duties as...
This is how you can tell when a journalist is a mockingbird. They say CIA, not the CIA. Civilians say the CIA. CIA members say CIA.
directed by the President and his National Security Council. And that phrase has become a sort of blank check, authorizing CIA excursions into everything from simple propaganda.
Oh, she got banned on
to the
YouTube.
overthrow of
Tori
unfriendly
says.
governments.
What did Tori say?
To CIA's current troubles is that unique American institution, the Tax-Free Foundation.
We would go to somebody in New York who was a well-known rich person, and we would say,
yes,
we want to
Kyrie
set up a
liaison, yes.
foundation,
I just
and
recently
we
tripped
would tell him
across
what
that
we're trying
video
to do
recently for some reason.
and pledge him to secrecy.
I
and he
cranked
would
it.
say,
Oh, yeah,
"Of course,
I love that song even back then.
I'll do it, and then you would publish a letterhead, and his name would be on it, and it would be the foundation.
And I hated We Are the
It
World.
was really
I
a pretty
liked,
simple device.
In this way, the CIA
Do they
set
know
up
it's
a huge
Christmas?
network of phony foundations. So what America got was the formation of an unofficial hidden arts council, a consortium which consisted of the cultural elite, the museum directors, the philanthropists, the urbane millionaires, the entrepreneurs, the critics, magazine.
So she exposed the YouTube algo and AI, same like Google. Really, eh? Interesting.
Editors, and CIA personnel. One of the network's leading lights
So we'll
was
definitely
John
have to get
McCloy,
on our Telegram
former
and our
OSS
Rumble.
agent and one of the architects of the CIA. He later had a key position on the Ford Foundation, a hugely rich charitable trust.
At the same time, McCloy is chairman of the Ford Foundation, and according to records found in the Ford Foundation's own archives, you can see that early in the 50s, the foundation was approached repeatedly by the CIA to help them provide cover for operations that they wanted to fund overseas.
Once again, the communist world holds a festival of youth, drawing thousands of visitors from both sides of the Iron Curtain.
Ew, I see.
For cultural influence operations, the CIA targeted global youth festivals, like the one in Helsinki, Finland in 1962, which was a Soviet-run festival. This is infiltration, spreading Western views through impressionable youth. Children were used, and the CIA assets like Gloria Steinem were paid to lead them.
Claire, here's the American delegation coming through. How many of these people were aware of any kind of CIA funding of their presence?
No, none. They were all, they came because they believed that it was important to come and represent the diversity of American views at the festival, where, after all, many Asians and Africans and Latin Americans had gathered. They were never told what to say. After all, it's not very impressive or a proof of freedom to present one monolith as another, and there was no attempt to do so.
Is this your jazz group?
Yes, we encouraged them to come. I believe they had other concerts to do in Europe as well, but we asked them to come to Helsinki. There was an art exhibition there. In 1958, when I came home from India, I discussed with student leaders, past and present, many of them active with the National Student Association. It was at that point that the student leaders said to me that they had in the past received funds for international programs from the CIA, and that they felt that this was important and could also be partly funded by the CIA. Well, the Ford Foundation, for instance, told me that they thought we were too liberal and too controversial, and that we would endanger their cultural programs in Austria.
Gloria Steinem now seems like a conservative. She was actually brilliant.
The private individuals to whom I went often had particular points of view to put forward, which would have been much, much more restricting than the CIA funds were, which were free. I mean, no one was told what to say.
You mean they were free? You mean to say it was easier for you to work for the CIA than a private organization?
That's right. And the reason I think that comes as a surprise, as it did to me at the time. I mean, I had the conventional liberals' view of the CIA as a right-wing incendiary group, and I was amazed to discover that this was far from the case, that they were enlightened, liberal, nonpartisan activists of the sort who characterized the Kennedy administration, for instance.
When we, the CIA, wanted to circulate disinformation on a particular issue, disinformation is not necessarily a lie, it may be a half-truth.
I've used this exact song in one of Matthew Ehret's movies.
I would do the briefing and hope that he would put the information in print. For instance, if we wanted to get across to the American public that the North Vietnamese were building up their force structure in South Vietnam, I would go to a journalist and advise him that in the past 6 months, X number of North Vietnamese forces had come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail system through southern Laos. Now, there is no way a journalist can check that information. So either he goes with the information or he doesn't, and ordinarily or usually, the journalist would go with it because it looked like some kind of exclusive. And I would say our percentage planning that kind of data was 70 to 80%.
Me Too We. Okay, is youth conferences. They work on Ontario school systems and internationally for creating little activists. Sounds horrible.
Correspondents we targeted were those who had terrific influence, the most respected journalists in Saigon, like Robert Chaplin of the New Yorker magazine, Kai's Beach of the Los Angeles Times from time to time, and also he worked for the Chicago Daily News. Bud Merrick of U.S. News and World Report, Malcolm Brown of the New York Times, even Maynard Parker of Newsweek magazine. We would go after these gentlemen. I would be directed to cultivate them, to spend time with them at the Caravel Hotel or the Continental Hotel, to socialize with them, and slowly but surely to try to gain their confidence by dolloping out
I've seen this interview. It's mind-boggling.
Information which was true. And then I would drop into a conversation the data that we wanted to get across, which might not be true. One piece of data, for instance, that we managed to plant in the New Yorker magazine had to do with a supposed North Vietnamese effort in 1973 to develop airfields along the border of South Vietnam. The reason we wanted to plant this information was that we were trying to persuade the U.S. Congress that Saigon should continue to get a great deal of aid, and that the North Vietnamese were the chief violators of the ceasefire accord. That was printed in the New Yorker magazine under the byline of Robert Chaplin, as indeed was a great deal of such information which we tried to circulate. I am as an ex-CIA agent opposed to the disinformation activities in which I was involved. I admit that I was involved, and I think it served no useful purpose. Propagandizing the American public or Congress is not the CIA's job.
Sounds like every news release about Ukraine.
During the 20th century, Hollywood grew to be a symbol for Western culture and governance. Entertainment has always been used to capture the minds of humankind, like a siren song.
All right. Just wait.
Keeping people distracted. American influence through pop culture spread everywhere. While spies were being exposed, American pop culture succeeded by infiltrating a Soviet general. Yuri Zhukov had a taste for Coca-Cola. It is said that a U.S. general asked Coca-Cola to manufacture a clear version of the drink, so it would look like vodka instead of his favorite sugary beverage.
No way. This is where Coke
At the
Clear
time when
came
the
from?
U.S. and Soviet Russia were at nuclear stalemate, Western culture spread. War shifted into covert cultural funds in order to shift the other nation's perspective on their adversaries. This is cultural infiltration.
Check this out.
Ozzy. I just recorded an Ozzy
On
song.
August 12th and 13th, East met West at Moscow's Lenin Stadium for the loudest dose of musical détente to date.
And I'm really proud that they've all taken their time and effort and this support to help the foundation to bring awareness to kids on drugs and alcohol.
Oh, I know this guy.
Doing something like this on the 20th anniversary of Woodstock.
To start in the right direction, and maybe rock and roll can do what the politicians couldn't.
Just to show people all over the world that Russians can enjoy our music and we can enjoy their.
Just going to pause for this one. Oh, I can tell you about Ukraine. I have boots on the ground there, and that's where my family is from. Oh, no way, Andre. Huh, wow. Must be crazy for them over there. Are they in the east or west part? And we're going to have to talk, yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to talk, man. Maybe even get you on.
Without any of those political things. And that's the beginning of some peace.
Mary Angelo on the YouTube chat, she's also got roots in Ukraine and gave us an excellent little lecture about history of Ukraine and what was really going on there right when the special operations started. It's been crazy for years. Yeah, I bet, Andre. I bet. Looks like it's been crazy for a century over there. But I mean, it seems like it's been a CIA hub for decades now.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Since before Maidan, right, Andre?
Listening to the wind of change.
How do you measure such an astonishing moment in history? The East German government said tonight they were going to make more openings in the wall, at least a dozen more.
And I want all Americans to know that I'm committed to attacking our economic problems at home with the same determination we brought to winning the Cold War.
I love how artists are non-political, just bringing peace while being completely political. Yeah, no kidding.
In the post of President of the USSR.
The tricolor banner of the Russian Republic now flies over the Kremlin.
Innocence abroad. The new world of spyless coups. The key operatives in the conspiracy turned out to be telephones, televisions, and fax machines. We didn't need the CIA to support Yeltsin's counter-coup. We just needed a telephone operator listening.
I love how for the conservative side of politics, you got to kind of eventually really talk most of the musicians into doing the conventions or the shows or anything like that. But on the like, you look at the DNC and you got to like drag out the politicians to even say anything, as they're so busy with stupid musicians that are lining up to throw their show on at the DNC instead of actually talking about anything of meaning.
The old concept of covert action, which had embarrassed the agency during the past 40 years, was obsolete. And it includes political support operations for pro-democracy activists, which may be best left to the new network of overt operators. That's especially true in the realm of what used to be called propaganda and now can simply be called information. Frank Wisner, the head of the CIA covert operations during the mid-1950s, once remarked that he could play his media assets like a mighty Wurlitzer. Today, the mighty Wurlitzer exists. Mainstream media, like CNN, their objective, omnipresent, real-time coverage of the news helps American interests.
Our financial systems are decades old. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
Covert funding for these groups would have been the kiss of death if discovered. Overt funding has been a kiss of life. Who is the director of this operation? The CIA. I mean, CAA. An agency that doesn't exist. Creative Artists Agency. In the same way CIA used Coca-Cola, this is a PSYOP. For the animation work, creator Ken Stewart of CAA hired a visual effects company involved with Hollywood movies. Once again, cultural infiltration.
They managed to construct an entertainment edifice of gigantic proportions, which has changed the way that Hollywood does business.
James Andrew Miller is the author of Powerhouse, the untold story of Hollywood's Creative Artists Agency. If people have never heard of CAA and they don't know this agency, what makes this book exciting?
That's why I did it. There's kind of a paradox.
It's like they're barely trying. CIA, CAA. You think they get a little more inventive?
Paradox of sorts, right? Very few people outside of Hollywood know what CAA is, or those initials.
They've dumbed down the electorate precisely to that end. They don't need information, they only need confirmation bias. Yeah, and stupid entertainment. I mean, God, did you guys all see that that rapper girl performing at the DNC? Jeez.
And yet, it follows us all day. I mean, they're part of our lives, probably more
Emote
so
the vote.
than
Yes,
any of us
Jonathan.
realize. From Game of Thrones to Star Wars.
Ovitz co-founded Creative Artists Agency, a dominating force in the talent agent business. He helped shape the careers of, listen to this roster, Steven Spielberg, Meryl Streep, Bill Murray, and David Letterman. He is also the agent behind classic movies like Jurassic Park, Ghostbusters, Schindler's List, and Rain Man. I have to tell you that I am a CA girl, very, very proud to be represented by the firm.
Going to a Chipotle, CA does their marketing. I mean, you turn on the radio, Katy Perry's there, that's CA. I mean, so I love the idea that there's this little iceberg there. People in Hollywood know it, but below the surface, there's a lot unknown.
And the reason I like CAA is because Fred Spector gives the best presents, and he can crush anybody that gets in my way.
And the occasional mental programming.
Michael Ovitz is planning to take over the world. That's his plan. You know, this guy's negotiating. Don't you know they handle everybody on the space shuttle?
However, CAA
On
has
the space shuttle.
come to represent most of the top talent in Hollywood.
Hello, I'm John Lovitz. I'm an actor.
Freedom
I'm
feels
not
felt.
acting. No!
Felted.
Well, happy birthday, CAA. 20 years. Indeed.
In 2011, the overt collaboration of CAA agencies and the CIA became clear with the show Homeland, a political influence operation on cable television.
She's won 2 Emmys and a pair of Golden Globe Awards for her starring role on Homeland, a heart-pounding show which in recent seasons has anticipated real-life events.
If you look through, sort of saw the Paris attack coming, predicted that, a president under congressional investigation, fake news, Russia being involved. All those themes were on your show before they actually happened in real life.
Yeah, it's pretty uncanny.
It's pretty uncanny.
Yeah.
I'm a mad
flipping
fan
a bit
for
there.
the Homeland. The show's been incredibly prescient in years before. Are there things we're going to learn about America or about our intelligence community 6 months from now that you'll be broadcasting on February 11th?
Ex-J-girlfriend watched this show religiously.
What am I doing?
Homeland.
I can-ish.
Do you do this every season where you go get
She believed everything she saw.
with some actual spies?
We do. It's like the coolest part of my job.
Who sets that up? Who calls the CIA and goes, we just like to come in and hang out with you guys?
Yeah, so Henry Burmell, who was one of our founding fathers of Homeland, one of our writers, passed away a number of years ago, but his dad was in the CIA, and his cousin was a mentee of his father's and was also in the CIA, a very accomplished person there, and he recently retired.
Who did the cast meet with? Who was writing the script? Henry Burmell, son of a CIA agent. CAA does the casting and promotion, but the Central Intelligence Agency was writing the script of what is to come. Sounds like time traveling to me.
But in his retirement, he curates this week-long spy camp for us producers and writers. And
really?
Yeah.
Is it like, you know?
So we park ourselves in a club in Georgetown and talk to, like, real spooks. And, you know, people in the intelligence
Always hated
community
this show
and
along with
the
the
State
most,
Department and
with
journalists
most
and
late night
people
hosts.
who really...
What do they tell you?
I loved this show when it was Colbert Report, when he was putting on the character. He's like making fun of, the super crazy Fox News hosts and stuff. I thought that show was hilarious. But as soon as he took the mask off, he went straight to hell as far as I'm concerned.
Tell you that, like, what's the most surprising thing that they've told you about?
Like, he's actually boring and weak and wimpy and lame.
About their jobs or something you would need to know from
Well,
there?
every year it's different, right? We've been at
Okay.
it for a while, and the climate has changed.
Homeland seems to be the enemy telling the world what they're going to do. And the world is watching the movie, unknowing that there are real consequences to the movie they're watching. It's as if they're dictating to all right under your nose what the next phase is. They're telling you their plan out in the open. What's the collateral damage in this war? The collateral damage is the spectator. You.
But this year it was all about, the distrust between the administration and the intelligence world, and the intelligence community was suddenly kind of allying itself with journalists, which usually they're not.
How long ago did you
such
start
good
shooting
friends.
this season? How long?
We started in late August, September.
Because things didn't really go south between the present real administration and the intelligence community until the fall.
There was.
Saying nephew of a girlfriend worked there with tales of monster bags of weed delivered to crew. Which at Colbert's show?
Wasn't great faith at the very beginning, I don't think. But yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, the open hostility really started this past fall, I thought.
Yeah, well, I think maybe it wasn't so open, but it was real.
And these people knew about it.
It's always been programming.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't so
Indeed.
eager to populate the State Department.
Did you hear that? The State Department. The ones that are responsible for foreign affairs. As a reminder, you're paying and even enjoying their communications out in the open. They're mocking you.
This is a
They have the
fantastic
world
dog.
in a trance watching the train wreck.
I gotta get in front of this girl.
And the audience is on the train. Pure
Colbert writers
evil.
receive weekly delivery.
I'd like to figure out what I'm going to
Okay.
make jokes about in about 4 months. Could I read any of the scripts that you got coming up? It just saves
I don't know.
so
Look,
much
I
time.
mean, it's not an exact mirror, but it is a riffing on what is happening.
I
It's
should
like
actually
a
go back and
parallel
watch some of this show.
vision.
Just to with these
Probably too
goggles
irreverently
on.
say Carrie worked for me. Okay, minus the sex, the drugs, and the bipolar thing, but Carrie worked for me. And frankly, that's true.
I'd like to think that what we do on Homeland that's different from what people in the real CIA or in Spy Masters does.
There are as
is
many
that
others as in other
we are
shows,
trying
yeah.
to give the
No
poetic
kidding.
version. I'm touched by the patriotism of Brennan.
24
who I
to me
met,
was
who
pretty
I went into his
obviously an op.
office. Why did he bring me in his office? What did he want me to see? Why would he bring you in his office? Why would he allow his cameras in his office? And I believe he...
She is doing a weekly episode release on Mars. She's doing a series about the planet Mars, or is Mars a platform I'm unaware of? And she has done Antarctica. Interesting. Interesting. Have you guys heard of the final experiment that's going to end the flat Earth debate? Speaking of Antarctica, it's going to be very interesting. That'll be December, I think. Or November.
wants you to see his humanity.
The hearing to confirm John Brennan as head of the CIA got off to a rocky start. Activists protested against the U.S. drone program, which Brennan helped to create.
It's a thriller based on the true story of CIA agent Tony Mendez, who hatched a plot to free 6 Americans during the 1979 Iran hostage crisis by having them pretend to be a film crew.
And so you think of something that's literally out of Hollywood.
I think of Hollywood because I had some dealings with Hollywood and I trusted them. I knew some really smart people out there.
A little history on the whole 70s Iranian revolution. Who was part of that revolution? Who instigated it? It was actually Peter Strzok's father and Barack Hussein Obama's mother, Stanley Ann Dunham.
Oh,
Back
shit.
then, Peter Strzok was raised in Iran.
They're a Canadian film crew for a science fiction movie. I fly into Tehran. We all fly out together as a film crew.
In order to make this work, you actually have to set up a real production company in Hollywood.
Yeah, we had to find real estate on one of the studios out in Hollywood. Our consultants there helped us find some real estate, and we created a production company that we called Studio 6 Productions. Within a few days, we had a movie script, we had a company. First thing we did is went down to Hollywood Reporter and to Variety and took out full-page ads.
Wow.
I designed a poster.
I never saw that film.
Argo,
Looked good.
a cosmic conflagration.
It was when you receive one of the highest decorations in the CIA, and then it becomes so clear that you're going to have to keep it secret.
Yep.
No one's going to know.
30 years.
And now 30 years later, the whole world knows. How does that feel?
It's a terrible thing. Our job is to keep the secrets, not give them away. We've given it away, haven't we? How are we going to get the genie back in the bottle?
It was the CIA itself that let the genie out. When they celebrated their 50th anniversary, the boss wanted to make a PR splash. Mendez was ordered to go public with the story of the Canadian caper.
I said, why are we going to give away our best secret?
The CIA has a long history of maintaining power, be it dictators or presidents. For the United States, that means ensuring the pre-selected candidate is the commander-in-chief. And if free thinkers go off script, they pull a coup.
So help me God.
Keeping the truth from the people is one of their core functions, like the Bay of Pigs.
The president of a great democracy, such as ours, and the editors of great newspapers, such as yours, owe a common obligation to the people. An obligation to present the facts, to present them with candor, and to present them in perspective.
Bad things happen when you try to bring an end to the agency. Public approval was at an all-time low when the Church Committee hearings in the Senate exposed MK-Ultra assassinations and the now infamous heart attack gun. So CIA Director George H.W. Bush went to work to make sure his secrets...
Was the heart attack gun the one with the ice bullet? I've had to get footage of those hearings multiple times now for Matthew Arrett and Cynthia Chung's videos. Jonathan Gibson, Hollywood is a walking zombie and appears to be being unwound as cyber systems attenuate signal and control with deft personalization. It's why Epstein-style coercion likewise unneeded. Interesting.
Never got told.
Do you think Congress should have the authority to release secret material?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't think that any branch, that the legislative branch of government should unilaterally be empowered to release secret documents. I simply don't feel that way. We cannot run an intelligence business on that kind of basis. And part of it's secret, and I'm going to see that it stays secret.
I mean, the people that were working on the news media was a CIA guy. There were other CIA people involved. And the CIA officers themselves say, you know, we didn't, Church didn't get anything we didn't give him.
At will to the best of my ability.
A voice for
Church
the people
didn't get
had
anything
emerged
we didn't give them.
and became very popular with bold ideas.
You know, government in the United States, federal, state, and local, has been growing for 20 years in size about 2.5 times as fast as the increase in population. When you and I were boys back in the Midwest, right, governments, federal, state, and local, were only taking about 15 cents out of every dollar earned. Today, they're taking almost half of every dollar earned in the United States.
This Hollywood actor turned president was deemed a problem, and his health deteriorated after he was shot. Reagan's absence was an opportunity for this soon-to-be president, but everyone in intelligence knows within the agency. Bush Sr. was a 3-term president. Clinton's CIA connections trace back to cocaine operations with former President Bush in Arkansas, where Bill was governor. The next president was a CIA director's son and stayed right on script. And the best actor of them all, groomed for decades to be cast for his role in this movie, Barack Hussein Obama.
A 25-year veteran of the CIA, John knows what our national security demands.
It's fitting that the man who made him president should be CIA director, John Owen Brennan, the drone king, and also the guy that personally signed off on the 19 visas for the 19 hijackers of all those planes that hit the United States on 9/11. How do I know? He trained me too.
The
She's
newest
so cheeky,
version,
I love her.
2013 NDAA included an interesting amendment. This amendment legalized domestic propaganda on the American public. You heard me right. The newest NDAA wasn't just reauthorizing the indefinite detention of American citizens. It also allowed the U.S. government to legally carry out misinformation campaigns against the citizens of this country. But is this really surprising to anyone? I mean, the corporate media is basically a propaganda arm of the U.S. government anyways, isn't it?
Tell you, RT is a wonderful outlet.
I think Barack Obama has proved feckless and weak.
in essence, what the Democratic administration has done is codified the destruction of domestic and international law that was put in place by the Bush administration. I mean, remember, he's not even restored habeas corpus.
The 2016 elections were a massive moment in the war on the people, beginning with the primary elections. Those were fixed too.
I am truly honored to nominate Bernie Sanders for President of the United States.
In an email released by WikiLeaks sent to Tulsi Gabbard in February of 2016, it says, "Representative Gabbard, we were very disappointed to hear that you would resign your position with the DNC so you could endorse Bernie Sanders, a man who has never been a Democrat before. Hillary Clinton will be our party's nominee, and you standing on ceremony to support the sinking Bernie Sanders ship is disrespectful to Hillary Clinton. You have called both myself and Michael Kives before about helping your campaign raise money. We no longer trust your judgment, so will not be..."
That's why they just arrested those RT employees yesterday. Yeah, we're about to get rolled up in a giant CIA sting op right now. They arrested RT employees, saying that they funneled $10 million to Tenet Media. And so that wraps up Dave Rubin, couple other huge, Lauren Chen, a couple other huge streamers and Twitter accounts with millions and millions of followers that did, just the side work with Tenet. They do some stuff as contractors through Tenet Media, which seemed to me on Twitter to be a pretty decent outlet. I definitely follow Tenet. And yeah, they're getting their spank down now, which is obviously going to be a test case for going after all the other sources that they don't like. So this one's going to be a massive psyop. I urge everyone to treat with utter disdain these stories of Russian interference in elections and stuff. I just did a video. It'll be our last video up on Rumble and YouTube that showed this side to side of them saying, oh, the Russians are interfering in our elections and paying to get their stories into our news and stuff, and then just immediately cut to Radio Free Europe, which has been around for, 60, 70 years, and has a YouTube channel, and it's entirely, right underneath the YouTube channel, even Google has put on there the warning that it's entirely paid for by the American government. It's American propaganda being broadcast around the world. That's okay. But anyone with any remotely vague ties to Russia pays any money to get word out about something in America, it's election interference. Here we go. And this is all going to be, they're increasing in scale and size. Alex Jones was the test case. This will be another test case. And then in the future, they'll just start shutting down social media and production companies that don't have right think. I'm going to go back a little bit here. Poor Tulsi. Been a big wake up for her, though.
Has never been a Democrat before. Hillary Clinton will be our party's nominee, and you standing on ceremony to support the sinking Bernie Sanders
a real woman.
Is disrespectful to Hillary Clinton. You have called both myself and Michael Kives before about helping your campaign raise money.
The only sources left will be the ones like Shapiro, who are running on the RNC money and are perfectly happy to be never-Trumpers and cancel their own when they get a little bit too out of line, as we saw with Candace Owens.
We no longer trust your judgment, so will not be raising money for your campaign. That email was then forwarded to the Clinton campaign and John Podesta, with the message, hammer dropped. Who were the emails from? Darnell Strom and Michael Kives, both CAA employees, and sent from their CAA email accounts.
Wow.
New NBC News Marist poll numbers from Iowa and New Hampshire bring good and bad news for hopefuls on both sides. Here are 3 key takeaways. Number 1, Democrats are ready for Hillary.
Hillary Clinton, being a former First Lady, has well-established connections to the CIA versus Donald J. Trump, an outsider and a former campaign donor to the Clintons. I wonder why he stopped.
And I led a very nice life, but I also love our country. And this was an easy decision. I went from being the ultimate insider to being an outsider like they've never seen before. We are doing so well. This is a movement like they've never, ever seen before.
Everything with Trump has never been seen before.
Rode down the escalator to begin his candidacy. It was no holds barred agency propaganda, smears, and assets coming out of the woodwork to ensure he didn't win.
That's not going to happen.
Tell us more, George. Fucking idiot. Jonathan, I've been doing the dull task of going through Facebook posts removing things that bring notice. Deep Learning knows me, but local crats will run their latest AI and my profile lower maybe. Yeah, I mean, God, who knows what's going on, man? I mean, you guys all saw the Alexa, should I vote for Donald Trump? Why should I vote for Donald Trump stuff? You know, so who knows what's going on in the background, what they're collecting, what they're planning to do. I recently, ironically, did the same thing, scrubbing our YouTube channel of the most egregious stuff that I know YouTube won't like, in an attempt, once the 90 days is up from when I did my last re-education training, literally a multiple choice exam on how to be a good boy, that we might be able to get the thing monetized. And to do that, we're going to need, we've got enough subs, we're going to need view hours. But, you know, we've been barely broadcasting on YouTube for obvious reasons. I mean, we've had live streams shut down while they're happening because somebody's talking about, you know, vaccines or real shit about Ukraine. But I've gone through and deleted most of the stuff that I assume would be considered quote-unquote dangerous content, which is why we were refused monetization. I'll actually try to get monetized again, because, I mean, at the end of the day, YouTube is the most efficient way. We'll do the dangerous live streams on Rumble and X and such, and Kick, but still put up produced videos on YouTube and try to get things going again. So feel free to share things around. We need several hundred view hours before we can, I think maybe a couple thousand view hours before we can apply again for monetization. But I feel you, Jonathan. Then the thing is, it would be capitulation, except we do have other channels open, and in that dead time, X has become by far, you know, by an order of 4 bigger for us than YouTube. But X is horrible for monetization, horrible for archiving videos and this kind of thing. It's much more of an instant gratification platform. Anyway, I feel you, man. I was attacked today. Someone on Facebook was trying to get me to give up my location. What? God.
He's not going to be president.
It's tough out there for a girl.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay. All right, Nancy.
All right.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
On that note, Tom.
Take it from me. How about that?
Idiot.
And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address, in no part of your mind or brain can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
They wanted to install the pre-selected candidate. In frequent attendance at the Clinton campaign trail were a plethora of CAA talent, between the support of entertainment and even the CAA news talent. The narrative was Clinton would easily win.
The only way we can prove that to you is by having lots of famous people. Lots of famous people.
Lots and lots of famous people.
The CIA has a long history of election interference in foreign countries. And you guessed it.
Sam Parker will be starting a new platform.
She leads Donald Trump there by 6
that
points.
Is
and look at all these wins we're projecting for Hillary Clinton right now.
This story had an unexpected plot twist for the agency normally in control. Defying perceptions, Donald J. Trump won the presidency. But this story is far from over. The CIA agency apparatus failed to secure the presidency as they had for decades, and took swift action with multiple operations between election and inauguration. Beginning with an urgent update to the NDAA.
I returned to Twitter after a decade. Wow, after a decade absent, and was amazed how pleasant and full of art my hiatus profile delivered. It's a much saner place now. It's very usable. We got banned for a year for a tweet that called for a redneck revolution, obviously in jest. And I don't know if it was redneck or if it was revolution, or a fatal combination of both. We had a year on the bench, and we've only now just been able to submit for partial monetization on Twitter. But of course, that was 2 months ago, and still haven't responded.
Now, of course, when all of us are not paying attention, spending time with our family, exchanging gifts and having dinner, Barack Hussein Obama quietly signed the Countering Disinformation and Propaganda Act into law. This is a draconian law in its inception.
Yes, he's a
its nature
senator.
that will have huge ramifications when it comes to independent media and also your free speech.
Propaganda and lies are exactly what they did.
I've heard the story from him.
All
right,
attempts
Andre.
to stall or eliminate his
brother.
inauguration failed.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
He is an illegitimate president in my mind.
It's okay when they say that. It's okay when they say it's stolen. God, that makes me mad.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do.
Oh, okay, Jonathan. My name's Moniker, so like your at name was hijacked, and I cannot get it back yet. I think they make too much money to give it back without a fight. Right. Interesting. I'm sure that if you can prove you had the at name, it'll probably take 6 months, but I'm sure they have to give it back.
We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
Russia fudge.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
Yes. There absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy. So that legitimacy is in question, yes. So that was a very tainted election, and in that sense, it's illegitimate.
I, Donald John Trump, do
And on January 20th, Donald John Trump became the 45th president.
John Roberts has a hell of a comb over, too. That's like the meaning of the great comb-overs.
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning. Because today, we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
Yes.
The agency doesn't like a president who gives power back to the people. Therefore, the intelligence manufactured influence operation called the Russia dossier was deployed,
soundboard set up so I can
attempting
applaud.
to erase the embarrassment and damage that truth brought to us by WikiLeaks and the Trump election victory had done to the reputation of the agency apparatus. Let me introduce you to Adam Waldman. His texts reveal how Hollywood was right in the middle of the phony dossier. Most known for being Johnny Depp's lawyer, he was the point of contact between Hollywood, British intelligence operative Christopher Steele, and a staff member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, Daniel J. Jones, a Dianne Feinstein staffer who drafted the CIA torture documents and also had a movie produced about him, as played by Adam Driver. His foundation/company funded this dossier.
From a text message conversation between United States Senator from Virginia, Mark Warner, and Hollywood lawyer Adam Waldman. February 16, 2017 at 10:49 p.m., Senator Mark says, "Have had important call about your message. We'll have to answer tomorrow." Adam responds 8 minutes later, "Thank you, standing by. Just want to underscore my opinion and the reason I got involved. This guy is going to do something catastrophic for the Dems, Obama, CIA, and national security. I hope someone will consider getting him to the U.S. to ameliorate the damage."
Who are they talking about?
This guy is going to do something catastrophic for the Dems, Obama, CIA, and national security. 2 months later, on April 10th, 2017, Adam Waldman sends a text to Senator Warner. "Hi, Steele would like to get a bipartisan letter from the committee. Assange, I convinced him to make serious and important concessions, and I am discussing those with DOJ. Deripaska, willing to testify to Congress but interested in state of play with Manafort. I will be with him next Tuesday for a week. I'm bringing Ben Stiller for the Day of Hill and administration meetings on refugee issues in May. Would you like me to bring him by your office?" Senator Mark Warner responds, "Sure." Lawyer Adam Waldman replies over 4 hours later, "Mark, call me anytime you want to discuss the above three. I am glad to communicate or try to accomplish whatever you want to do." 8 days later, on April 18th, 2017, Senator Warner replies, "Been off the grid for a few days. Need to get up with you this week, on phone."
Steele. Jonathan, I've owned my website since '96, tied that to a named Twitter account and denied me control. I do need to update my post-COVID ID. Wow, man, well, good luck to you. I know how slow X is with replying to stuff. It's bonkers. Good luck.
Daniel J. Jones, a month prior to this text,
Ben
met
Stiller,
with Adam
oh my
Waldman,
God, that
who
guy's
was
lost
Igor Deripaska's lawyer.
Don't we all want to be
Adam
black
did
men?
pro bono work for Julian Assange. These texts highlight how damaging Assange is to the Democrats, to Obama, and the CIA, and how it was very important that they bring him to the United States. And for some reason, Christopher Steele was in the middle of all of that. This is treason. Treason against the people of the United States. Not only that, the Film Actors Guild, Ben Stiller, an envoy to the United Nations, involved in Steele discussions with people on the Hill? Steele and Daniel J. Jones paid Igor Dachenko, an FBI informant who lied, to help manufacture the phony Russian dossier. The George Soros-funded Penn Quarter Group, which was founded by Daniel J. Jones, a former FBI agent who paid Fusion GPS, and author of The Russian Dossier, Christopher Steele. And as you just learned, it's Obama, the CIA, and the politicians that have a problem with Julian Assange, not the people.
He's going to need a bulletproof car if he keeps it up. Blue Steel.
The influence war continued by the
way you
fourth
spelled it.
unelected branch of government to reclaim the presidency from a duly elected man who wanted to give power.
And Ivanka too. I mean, gee, she should be going down in history as one of the most beloved and beautiful first ladies ever, like Jackie O. But poor lady, she's had to put up with so much shit just because she's Trump's wife.
Or back to the people. All agency assets were deployed, and we witnessed a system-wide attack on a sitting president.
Let me ask you, I don't know if you have seen this. I don't want to blindside you with this. This is the latest statement, latest tweet, as you were just saying. Intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. He's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Stu Peters will also be exposing more soon. He was talking about where he gets his funding and what he's going to be doing. Who's the he pronoun? We've been bouncing around a bit. Sorry, going back through the chats here. Oh, okay, you're talking about the senator there. He was talking about where, but again, I heard this from him. He's invited into a space I'm in and talked about it for over an hour. Cool. Jonathan, you are a puny guy. Indeed. Agreed.
So, even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told...
Is anyone else grieving over the loss of the word community? It is insane. I follow a lot of gaming YouTube, and I want to make a video where I take a timer out and click for every time I hear the word community. If everyone who bought a certain video game is now part of the community, and the intelligence community, like, what makes them a community? Communities have potlucks and go to church and know and care about each other. The word community is crept in as part of this like left speak, emotional speak thing that's everywhere. I can't stand it. Everyone's in like 100 communities. How's that possible? I'm in the Whitehorse community. I can actually go meet people in Whitehorse and go to political meetings and barbecues and bring potato salad to them. That's being in a community. I even saw one video where a guy, the narrator, referred to the organized crime community instead of saying mafia. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I think that I really grieve the loss of the word. Maddow delivers agitprop in nursery rhyme sing song. Yeah, it's like bedtime songs for lesbians. No, Stu Peters, not Sam Parker, but both are going to be exposing more. So Stu Peters is talking about where Stu Peters gets money from. I was just trying to parse your statement. You said Stu Peters was going to expose things, and he was going to talk about where he gets his money from. So I just wanted to clear up who the he's and his's were.
They are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
Rachel Maddow's whole show is this one big conspiracy theory. Big conspiracy theory with no evidence. And she's linked everything to that.
Yes, Jimmy
she
Dore.
said Rex Tillerson, the head of the CEO of Exxon, was a Putin puppet. She said that about him. That's called McCarthyism. That's red baiting.
What they're really upset about
is,
Mariangela, when was the last time we ever heard a president attack, quote, the deep state, end quote? He's not attacking some rogue outfit in Afghanistan that's an offshoot and maybe under contract. He's attacking the military-industrial complex's core secrecy operations. And that is freaking out people at the CIA, especially career people who have never been fingered that way from the White House.
Actually, love Ralph Nader.
Apparently this was a year before the election. Now, he called it fake news. You know, he always does that. And added information is being illegally given to the failing New York Times and the Washington Post by the Intelligence
Press 1 in
Committee,
chat to celebrate
NSA,
The View
and
getting
FBI.
canceled.
Just like Russia.
You know, he questioned the integrity of the intelligence agencies. What does he expect? Does he expect them to love him and not leak stuff? Because he started this war with the intelligence agencies, and this is what you're getting now.
So I guess someone over at Super Deluxe Cuts figured this out, and they put this together. Here we go.
Donald Trump's done. He's done. There's no question about that.
He's done.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
The beginning of the end.
And breaking news.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
The call for impeachment.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
The beginning of the end of the Trump presidency. Trump will resign.
Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
It reminds me a lot of the last days of Nixon.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
This is the beginning, not the end.
This is hilarious. I made a montage of the beginning of the end bombshells back when this happened. I actually made a little video. It's on Twitter somewhere, but this is one of the reasons I hate X is as a video creator, there's no place to go to find your old videos. You've got to search for them. Anyway, yeah, this is hilarious. I did this exact same thing because over 2 days I kept hearing bombshell.
Beginning of the end.
The walls are closing in.
Yeah, if you repeat the lie long enough.
Closing in.
None of these people are embarrassed. None of them are embarrassed. None of them are ridiculed. None of them are called conspiracy theorists. None of them. You know why? Because they're the establishment doing it.
Yes.
But you say one thing against this, they literally, if you debunk this conspiracy theory, they'll literally call you
Jimmy
a conspiracy
Dore
theorist
for the
for
win.
not buying into this. That's how effed up things are.
And to think that just a few years ago, he was kind of a raging liberal, that, you know, the way liberals used to be defined.
More to this.
Another bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell. Bombshell. Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
Bombshell. This is a bombshell. It is a bombshell.
I am beginning to resent the word bombshell.
Well, I think that the propaganda that batters us all is so, repetitious and monotone, precisely because it is at the service of a kind of single, dominant. Use the word hegemon. I think that's the truth. That's the case.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities.
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities.
Eastern Iowa communities.
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are concerned about trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Oh yeah, I did a clip of that
the
too.
Agenda-setting media. That means the New York Times, the Washington Post, the major television channels, and so on. They set the general framework.
Oh God, Noam Chomsky. My heart always breaks when I see these classic clips of Chomsky. This guy used to be another godsend amongst the classic liberal crowd. I've got probably 8 of his books still on my shelf behind me, and multiple videos of him saying that, freedom of speech is absolute. You have to protect the speech of people that you hate. Otherwise, no one has it. And then you get to COVID and the guys just lock everyone up that doesn't have a vaccine and take away their right to speak. It just melted his brain.
Local media more or less adapt to their structure.
False news has become all too common on social media. An agenda to control exactly what people think. And
isn't he like over 100 years old now?
To our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. Any rational human being with even minimal history of the United States and the CIA would take everything that the CIA says with a huge grain of salt. I would call it actually a dose of rational skepticism, given how many times in the past that agency has lied and been in error. You know, of course, don't you, that the Iraq War was started because that agency said that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and was in an alliance with Al-Qaeda, something that turned out to be tragically untrue.
And I know,
so of course people would treat those claims skeptically.
Okay.
Post 9/11 era opened an opportunity to rehabilitate their image, gain new approval in the public eye, that now they're a force for good. And all that assassination and death squad stuff, well, that's all in the past. Their current rebrand is just the latest phase of this makeover. And in a climate where they now have widespread acceptance in popular culture, academia, and news media. Which is why it's so important to document their true legacy and explore why these operations are not just part of their history, but part of their present.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Yeah.
Hey, Anderson, we had a great interview last time. I was wondering if you get a chance to look into Operation Mockingbird? You know what that is.
You're talking about something, what, from the 1950s, dude?
1970s, official declassified program how the CIA infiltrated the mainstream media from the high...
Oh, God, Anderson Cooper. Talk about Mockingbird. Chomsky was one of those broken clocks that was right 2 times a day. He just talks so much that he is quotable. Well, that's kind of a cynical take a little bit. Like I said, I've read multiple books by him on his books on American foreign policy and stuff, or laser beams that completely take apart the kind of CIA narrative. He's much like a Glenn Greenwald, you know, a more liberal cast. He came out of, you know, anti-war hippie movements and stuff to take up the cause, and his treatises on, you know, what America's doing wrong and modern colonialist America and you know, their illegal activities abroad is fantastic. And you know, Manufacturing Consent, that's an incredible film. Really, really good stuff. Just his brain blew up from COVID.
Higher up.
Right.
It's declassified.
I read about it in college, yes, I do. Thanks.
Worked at CIA.
Do you think it's something that could
I didn't actually know
possibly
that.
be happening today?
Jeez.
I have no comment for you, thanks, dude.
Yeah,
Why not?
thanks, dude.
I mean, you didn't have any journalistic training except CIA training. I mean, I just wanted to know what you think of German reporter Hopp.bio, who said the CIA bribed him and extorted him to publish news stories.
To manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed.
Oh, I haven't heard of this guy.
To betray the people working for Central Intelligence Agency or other American agencies.
So, Anderson, what influence do you think the CIA has when it comes to mainstream media?
Dude, you're being just ridiculous.
I mean, it's time. I mean, it's time to ask really the hard questions.
And this is not only politicians, this is journalists too. And I just have written in the book how we have betrayed in the past our readers just to push for war, because I don't want this anymore. I'm fed up with this propaganda. I was supported by the Central Intelligence Agency, by the CIA. Why? Because I should be pro-American. I'm fed up with it. I don't want to do it anymore. I've just written a book not to earn money. No, it will cause a lot of trouble for me.
Oh, he had a heart attack.
In this country, in Germany, in Europe, and all over the world, a glimpse of what goes up behind the closed doors. It is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past. And American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia.
The Russian thing is just a big nothing burger.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen that.
The Russian thing is just a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
When we talk about manufacturing of consent, whose consent is being manufactured?
We can, to start with, there are 2 different groups. We can get into more detail, but at the first level of approximation, there's 2 targets for propaganda. One is what's sometimes called the political class. Now, their consent is crucial. It's one group that has to be deeply indoctrinated. Then there's maybe 80% of the population whose main function is to follow orders and not to think, and not to pay attention to anything.
The internet has become the most important device for revealing the truth, at least since the beginning of the printing press. It has become the #1 antidote to TV. Democracies are always lied into war. It's not just lies by intelligence analysts, it's lies by the big media machine. And what is in the big media machine? Well, it's the various institutions that get too comfortable and too close to the table of power, the very table that they are meant to be reporting on and policing and getting into the historic record.
And when they can't control the flow of information, and the people embrace their independence and free thinking, it's standard practice to deploy a crisis. Control by fear.
China's new and deadly coronavirus has been reported here in the U.S.
Oh, surely we have no idea what they're talking about.
The second of what potentially could be a series of coronavirus cases has appeared in the United States. The latest patient, a woman diagnosed in Chicago after returning from Wuhan, China.
It's very likely that rich countries who uniformly throughout their country do a serious shutdown, that they will be able to avoid a high percentage of their population getting infected. That's what the exemplars, like some of the work in China and South Korea, are telling us.
The remarkable rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines offers great hope, but these vaccines need to reach everyone, everywhere as quickly as possible. This is a matter of fairness and justice.
This is the $15 million mansion where Antonio Guterres lives, and you see, he's got 2 separate UN security cars. These guys are driving in and they're driving out. No masks, man. Check it out. UN car, smoker, no mask.
We need greater trust. For any vaccine to work, the majority of men, women, and children across the globe need to be willing to accept it.
See, this is not quarantine. This is a violation of New York City health regulations. Turning our attention, Rachel, to young Hollywood and the vaccine.
Oh.
All right, look at this sexy shot. Sophie and Joe.
No surprise, they turned to entertainment to promote this.
Britney Spears and Sam Asghari, her boyfriend.
It was nothing. I felt nothing.
This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
They want obedient world citizens.
Small business.
Yeah, that ex-GF I was talking about, she'd have stacks of People magazine and all those things, just sitting there reading about stupid gossip. Killed me.
The ones that aren't publicly traded, they're dropping like flies after a government-mandated shutdown because they're non-essential. The people who work there are non-essential. It's hard enough to run a small business. How about when the government says you're closed and the landlord says, I don't care? That's the thing about this pandemic. It's been one of the greatest wealth transfers in history, and it's a wealth transfer that was mandated by the state. I think that it'll have a horrible effect on our country.
The unified world governments decide which businesses get to be open and which ones get shut down. Who can and can't work. This story has come a long way since the CIA fighting the Iron Curtain. They became it. This wasn't a pandemic. This was an infodemic.
Very well put.
With a quote from Winston Churchill. The farther you look behind, the farther you can see ahead.
So you guys catch that shitstorm going around now because Tucker had on some dude who was talking some revisionist stuff about World War II. Not even really that crazy. He just brought up some of the aspects of Hitler's rule and policies that were entirely reasonable. And you should do Twitter today was just people that I'd been kind of following and respecting, just coming off as like woke morons, because he said that Winston Churchill was an asshole and provoked the war, which is entirely 100% verifiably true. Winston Churchill did everything he could into his power to push Germany into war, to trick them into war, and was ready to go and wanted war and acted that way. And this shouldn't be controversial, but people have beatified Churchill, turned him into a fucking saint. And the guy's like an openly racist, globalist, colonialist, asshole, warmonger. And just because he's very good at speeches, we'll give him that. But wow, it's been a day on X, I'll tell you what.
The Atlantic Council is an American think tank in the field of international...
I want to hear about the Atlantic Council. I'm just pausing it. Make America Great Britain again. Yeah, MAGBA. MAGBA. We got to make that a thing, man. We got to make some hats. We make red and blue hats, MAGBA hats. I love it. That that statement. I'm gonna screenshot this, man, so I remember this. I'm actually taking a screenshot of that because that's genius, dude. Because that ties into everything that I've learned hanging with true scholars like Matthew Ehret. If any of you aren't following Matthew Ehret on Twitter or Rumble, you got to. This is the guy that I make films for, and he's like a monster historian. And that really outlines the last 200 plus years of history is Make America Great Britain Again. That really kind of says it all. Yeah, working on teas. Good, man. Hit up Printify. You can do them, print on demand.
Affairs for NATO countries and founded in 1961. On their website, they have an article called Shaping a New Democratic World Order that says, since the end of World War II, the United States and its allies across Europe and the Asia Pacific have led to the establishment of a rules-based order. Sounds like some Winston Churchill world citizen stuff. And this idea is embraced in Ukraine.
We had 3 revolutions in our country when we did not agree with what was going on with the direction of where we're moving in. But right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries.
And former CIA director, President George H.W. Bush.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
There exists a persistent desire for a unified world government. As the Atlantic Council calls it, a democratic world order. But the harsh reality is, the democratic aspect is in name only. You can't be pro-democracy while fixing elections and overthrowing governments in other nations. To understand how the United States and the faceless aspects of the agencies use actors, we start with Sean Penn.
Sean Penn is here. The actor, director, humanitarian, and 2-time Academy Award winner is in New York, having just returned from Haiti. He rushed to that country just days after a devastating earthquake in January killed nearly 300,000 people. He formed an NGO called JP Haiti Relief Organization. Today, Sean Penn is running one of Haiti's largest and most efficient camps.
There's been a lot of tug-of-wars between the government of Haiti and the international aid organizations.
Oh God, did I hear Sean Penn?
Including the United Nations. That because, for example, USAID, again an organization that has a lot of goodwill in it, it also moves with the political agendas of the United States government. The Preval government was, by any conventional measure, moving forward.
At the time the earthquake struck, this government was getting better.
They don't have control of the money. It's the World Bank, it's the Clinton Foundation. They have the first say over the reconstruction money.
This is a piece about you in the Vanity Fair magazine. To read that, you get a sense that you have access to the levers of power in the U.S. government. You testified
How do you get
before
that
Congress.
access?
The military there has been almost partners with you in terms
Remember
of what
him
you're
going to
trying
meet
do.
Zelensky?
You know people in the State Department at the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State level, and certainly.
Sean Penn, a film actor of the new agency. What
The flag of the
operations are
new
Hollywood
agency.
helping with these days? Sean Penn has a string of unique events in his real-life story, including meeting with drug lord El Chapo before his arrest. Also, an assassination operation in Haiti, in which a former driver and security personnel from the JP Haiti Relief Organization days was apprehended as a suspect for this agency coup operation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And now Sean Penn runs CORE, his new nonprofit, where he has continued influence in key locations around the world and funding from those foundations, again, like CAA.
Yes.
This creates the
USAID.
perfect opportunity for Sean Penn to star in a new role in Ukraine, a hotbed of agency activity.
Here we go.
Did you know that the current president of Ukraine was an actor who played the president of Ukraine on a show that a production company that he himself started created? Did he pull off the biggest?
So, just going to pause for a sec. Remind anyone that's watching that hasn't seen it, Metabiota 2, my film on Hunter Biden and his ties to Ukraine, but then expands into part 2 into a much bigger geopolitical situation, goes into Zelensky's origin story and what's his name, Ihor Kolomoisky, the media magnate and owner of the fucking company that Hunter was on the board of, you know, and that was being investigated by the Ukrainian Attorney General, that his dad, that President Biden, then Vice President Biden, had, Vice President Biden was in charge of Ukraine, forced them to fire the Attorney General by blackmailing them they wouldn't get $1 billion if they didn't fire the Attorney General who was investigating Ihor Kolomoisky's oil company that Hunter Biden was on the board of. And guess what? The whole investigation went away, and then the Hunter Biden laptop thing happened, and that was censored. I mean, God. Oh, it all makes so much more sense when you watch movies like this in a sequential fashion. But everyone go find our video, Metabiota 2 Pandemic Boogaloo. And you can find it anywhere. You can find it, just Metabiota, search that in our profile on X, on YouTube, on Rumble, and watch that, because we get a little bit more in depth on Kolomoisky. She probably will too. Geez, it's a 2-hour movie. She got time. She's probably going to do it. But yeah, it's basically made Zelensky filthy fucking rich before he even stepped into the presidency.
PSYOP of all time?
As someone who worked in intelligence, it's exhilarating to see people wake up and get it. This is an influence operation, a PSYOP. Having participated in fixing elections, specifically in the Ukraine, here's what they did. They took an actor from a pop specifically in the Ukraine. Here's what they did. They took an actor from a popular TV show called Servant of the People, used to reality hack the population into accepting him as a legitimate candidate. That was effective. Politicians are actors too.
I remember wondering if they were going to try to make Martin Sheen president because they ran that show for so long, or Julia Louis-Dreyfus there.
In 2014, Ukraine had a revolution just like the many CIA coup operations of the past. This one has all the same signs.
Color revolutions.
Осуществляется проект Техком,
Soros.
в рамках которого ведется подготовка к разжиганию гражданской войны на Украине.
So, before the coup, the U.S. State Department was involved
Tech camps. I haven't heard of this.
to have
Cool.
their influence on the outcome of the election.
The highest ranking State Department official, who presumably represents the Obama administration, and the American ambassador in Kiev are, to put it in blunt terms, plotting a coup d'etat against the elected president of Ukraine.
The most blatant
Wow,
coup
actual news on
in
NPR.
history, because it was advertised 2.5 weeks
Oh, I
in
love this
advance
guy.
on YouTube.
We could land jelly side up on this one if we move fast. So let me work on Klitschko.
So on that piece, Jeff, when I wrote the note, Sullivan's come back to me via FAR saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and
Attaboy,
a to stick. So
Okay.
Biden's willing.
Yeah,
Okay,
fuck the EU.
They even got
I remember
a
this
Netflix
call.
deal. Another Hollywood wartime production.
Today's administration was weaned on West Wing. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's Victoria Nuland and her phone call that got leaked to the ambassador in Ukraine, planning out the fucking coup. In plain words, can you imagine if there was like dirt like this on Trump's administration? It'd be everywhere. You know, fuck, it's crazy. And that call ends with her saying, "Fuck the EU," and then you flash forward a couple of years and they're blowing up Germany's gas pipeline. God, what a situation. This is an amazing film. I actually know this video template. I used it once.
Zelensky was presented on the show as a low-income teacher.
I have the link to that call on YouTube on my phone with Newland so I can whip it out whenever. Yes, I have it on Dropbox too, exactly. I've used it multiple times to respond whenever I put up anything that's kind of, mildly positive about Russia, say, or Putin. You'll get these like 12 follower accounts that suddenly jump on you and call you an idiot, or I say like Maidan was an American coup and all this Soros coup. And people are like, conspiracy theorist. I just pull that call out. I mean, they were recorded planning it.
But in reality, he's a wealthy businessman connected to Igor Kolomoisky.
Yes, Kolomoisky, this guy. So he funds the production company that made that show. He funds the oil company that Hunter was on the board of. He funds the black Nazi battalions in the Ukraine. It's just endless with this guy. Of course, living chill in London now.
A billionaire Ukrainian oligarch.
We'd visited Zelensky's campaign headquarters. It has all the feel of a tech startup.
Mary Angelo, why do they write it E-whore? But do you actually pronounce it Igor? Is it like directly one-to-one Igor? Or do Ukrainians say Ihor?
But the man himself gives very few interviews.
Every time Zelensky speaks Russian, the crowd here start to boo and to say shame. He does look as though he's struggling more than Petro Poroshenko. And even though Zelensky calls
he's a native Russian speaker, right? Like he actually had to learn how to speak with the correct Ukrainian inflections and vocabulary after deciding he was going to run, if I'm not mistaken. So he's actually like a fake Ukrainian.
This debate, the Poroshenko side of the stadium is quite a lot more full than the Zelensky side.
Wow.
The popularity of the show, and then renaming a political party the same name, succeeded in convincing the people that a stolen election was a legitimate one. Agency coups are bloodless takeovers of nations when they can rig your elections. It was Joe Biden who needed this outcome the most. He couldn't run for president in the USA if criminal corruption was exposed in Ukraine. I even warned about it on Twitter. In 2020, I heard the conversation at the cyber conference in Munich, February 2019. They know why Joe is slow to run for office. I heard it all, but then Twitter deleted my account.
Remember the Ukrainians? I know were only Ukrainians yesterday. They're like, Zelensky, yes. Russian Jews are all fake Ukrainians. Interesting take.
How will Biden change the 2020 race?
He has never run a major campaign where he is the front runner from the start, right? He was Barack Obama's running mate twice, but that's a supporting role. So now he's the starring actor in this campaign.
You overthrew Ukraine in 2014!
Tell us how you really feel. Jonathan, economist Michael Hudson grew up with Newland's crew and has dirt. He also said his FOIA FBI file showed HS Homeland Security, Econo plus civics plus coaches, teachers were filing reports on the kids. Now they test and graph. Interesting. Michael Hudson, eh? Let me just. Michael Hudson. Name sounds familiar. Not sure if I've followed him. The powers of neoliberalism. All right, I like him already. Cool. Let's get back to OBS here. Andre, what if I told you I heard he's neither? I'm looking into it, but we'll let you know when I find out. Who is neither? Who's neither? Sorry, man. There's just a lot of multimedia and chats coming in, and so when we just get like a he, I'm never quite sure. It's hard sometimes to remember who we're talking about. I'm gonna go with Zelensky's neither Jewish nor Ukrainian. That'll be my guess. Mariangela, think about it seriously. The West was full of Germans and owned by Germany. Yeah, right. I'm thinking. Not Ukrainian or Russian. Interesting. What is he then?
You overthrew the legitimate Ukraine in 2014!
The 2014 Ukraine elections had events that repeated during the 2020 U.S. elections. An article.
And just to plug again, not to be I told you so or look at me, because the scripts that I do are come from Matthew Arrett or Cynthia Chung in Montreal. We went right into all this stuff with Poroshenko and the other guy. I'm trying to remember the names. They just mentioned him. And all of this, the coup and the Maidan, this is crazy stuff.
By Christian Science Monitor on the Ukraine election preserves the record.
Okay, I got you now,
say,
Andre.
In the wee hours of the morning after polls close, as
well, he is openly
results
Jewish,
from
though,
Ukrainian election
Zelensky.
districts, internet links feeding that data to the vote tally system were hit with a barrage of fake data packets. From
You
about
can't be
1
Ukrainian
to 3
Jew,
a.m.
they would
on
have
May
been
26th,
killed.
election
Yeah,
results
right.
were
I mean, it
blocked,
wasn't a
delaying
Jew-friendly
the
place
final
there in
tally
World War
until
II, was
early
it?
morning. A preliminary report by International Election Observer 3 a.m. on May.
Let's go back a
Science Monitor.
little bit just to catch some info.
The 2014 Ukraine elections had events that repeated during the 2020 U.S. elections. An article by Christian Science Monitor on the Ukraine election preserves the record. They say, in the wee hours of the morning after polls closed, as results flowed in from Ukrainian election districts, internet links feeding that data to the vote tally system were hit with a barrage of fake data packets. From about 1 to 3 a.m. on May 26th, election results were blocked, delaying the final tally until early morning, a preliminary.
I think the most important thing that any of us needs to do in our little zones that we have is insist on pencil and paper ballots and the complete outlawing of any digital transfer of voting information of any kind. Like a dude on a horse should pick up the paper and pencil ballots after they're filled in. That nothing should go through the internet when it comes to elections.
Report by international election observers recounted. Wait, they stopped counting in the middle of the night? Sound familiar?
6 counties, by the way, I think it's 7 total, that have said they will not count mail ballots tonight. And all those counties were won easily by Donald Trump in
I put money on one of those, bet on anything apps. I bet on Trump winning in 2020. I think mostly just out of anger and spite towards, those around me who were falling to the leftist system. So I watched it, real time, stayed up super late with Rain from the SuperSpreaders channel, and we were watching that the whole night. I was in Ottawa, he was in Whitehorse and Yukon, and we were going back and forth the whole night and just watching these weird events. I remember this exact moment, and they're like, what? You're going to stop counting? Why? And then 100,000 votes exactly. Not 100,013, but 100,000 votes exactly would come in for Biden in a state where Trump was leading by, half a point or something. I don't know. Were you guys watching that real time? That was truly, truly bonkers. And what's double bonkers is that it's become illegal to question it.
2016.
It's also worth noting that the Obama administration sent $50 million to Ukraine in the form of aid to help ensure democratic elections. Remarkable timing 1 month before elections were held.
Of the United States. We're looking at $53 million in further assistance. Crucial.
I put this in my 2020 election affidavit. It's over 30 pages. And to date, no one has disproved it.
Interesting.
After 4 long, tense days, we've reached a historic moment in this election. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States. We're able to make this projection because CNN projects Biden wins Pennsylvania.
The 2020 election was a blatant theft by the agencies with a criminal cover-up.
They're not willing to acknowledge we won at this point is not of much consequence in our planning.
The stolen power from the people by the fourth unelected branch of government.
I like this scene on the stream right now. We've got the CIA Homeland Security badges up, plus the Super Spreader badge. That scene looks great. And the QR code to joinlocals.com and help support us.
Allowed for the agencies to steal back the presidency. But the 4 years of Trump in office was enough to give the people time to understand how to take back their republic of self-government.
Of what we have achieved together.
When you're a global power broker and you can seize the White House,
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
It's a large return on investment. Thanks to the Hunter Biden laptop that was intentionally left behind, we learned how Joe used Hunter in almost...
Yeah, okay, so that's always been my take as well. There's no world in which that laptop gets left behind and just sits there festering in a repair shop in New York. Was it in New York? That's always gotten me a little bit. So I've always been one to, by all means, let's dig into that laptop. I've looked at the pages in the laptop. I actually had to do that for one of the films and get quotes of him texting his sister. But to get to that page, I had to look at some of the shit in that. It truly is Satan's laptop. It's one of the filthiest things I've ever seen in my life. But the thought that was unintentionally left, and you got to think Hunter Biden within, a few days, he's rich as shit. He's probably got 7 laptops. Within a few days, within a few weeks, he's going to go, shit, where's that laptop? There's a bunch of dirty stuff on it. Why didn't they go get it back? So I've always wondered about that. Let's see what she says.
A conservatorship type way to maximize the cash out. While keeping his son poor, he made his dad millions. Also, German email server used by both Joe and their republic of self-government.
Proud of what we have achieved together.
When you're a global power broker and you can seize the White House,
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
It's a large return on investment.
God, he couldn't even get through his own
Biden
name.
Laptop that was intentionally left behind. We learned how Joe used Hunter in almost a conservatorship type way to maximize the cash out.
Free Hunter.
While keeping his son
Free
poor,
Hunter.
he made his dad millions. Also, German email server used by both Joe and Barack Obama to avoid U.S. surveillance. First, an internship for Naomi Biden with her own CAA email address. Then there's Hunter coordinating speaking contracts for his father. Joe Biden himself was signed on with CAA. And the news that Joe sealed a China deal for Hollywood and CAA.
We got to get super on
dealings.
CAA. Then we'll get some stuff.
These connections with China run deep, both for the Bidens and Hollywood. But don't worry, all this is fake news, according to the 50 spies who lied. Former agency. And last of all, from the Hunter Biden laptop, is Obama and CAA organizing an event for women. Another foundation/nonprofit to psyop the people. Kind of like the CIA did in its early days of cultural infiltration. The United States of America, the fourth unelected branch of government, consumed more and more tax dollars.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash. One of the things that President will do is to make sure your money is spent wisely.
And became a massive runaway agency apparatus who passed laws subverting U.S. constitutional law, like the 2001 Patriot Act.
The bulk collection of all Americans' phone records, all of the time, is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. The Second Appeals Court has ruled it illegal. The president began this program by executive order. He should immediately end it through executive order.
This is a coalition of classified, public, and privatized assets with the power to overthrow governments, including their own. And with that much captured authority, they were allowed to get away with a lot, from Hollywood to around the world.
WikiLeaks released what it claims are thousands of confidential CIA documents. They allegedly show that the spy agency worked to develop tools to hack into devices like Apple and Android smartphones, Samsung TVs, and vehicle control systems.
To WikiLeaks, the hacking tools included malware and viruses designed to attack Apple's iOS, Google Android, and Microsoft Windows. They allegedly allowed the CIA to access a smartphone user's location and messages, as well as control a phone's microphone and camera.
It's actually a totalitarian process that's been used down through history. I mean, that's what totalitarian dictators, states, that's what they want to do. They want to know everything about the population so they can control it. That was the idea behind the Soviet Union, the East German Stasi, that was their idea, and the Gestapo and the SS, and down through history, many others.
CISA facilitates and expands surveillance. It would allow companies to openly share your
Okay,
emails,
Mariangela,
phone
good,
calls,
yeah.
text messages,
My
credit
gut
cards,
tells me
social
that
security
those guys
information,
are real.
anything with Homeland Security. And then Homeland Security
But I'm always,
curates it and immediately
willing to
shares
learn
it
that
to
I've been
government
fooled.
agencies like the Department of Defense, the FBI, and of course, the NSA. It could also share that info with other companies if they think it poses any kind of cybersecurity threat.
Fire Department 97, what's the address of the emergency?
Oh, somebody's passed out.
Somebody what?
My daughter's passed out.
The lab which conducted the test suggested one possible explanation would be an exposure to these metals or toxins administered by a third-party perpetrator
Eminem's
with
wife?
likely criminal intent.
Brittany was named as an official witness in our case that was at the time proceeding against Homeland Security. So you can imagine what would happen if Brittany was to walk through the doors to testify in our case. There would be a lot of media.
That's
Angela,
crazy.
do you suspect somebody responsible for poisoning her?
Yeah, I do really, but I'd rather not speak about that.
Brittany did tell me she was under surveillance, and incidentally, so was I.
Do you have any advice for a young girl moving to Hollywood?
I'll get lively with us. Harvey Weinstein invites you to a private party in the Four Seasons stuff.
You know, this is not unique. This goes on at the most horrendous high levels.
I want to know who is taking these actresses up to his room. And I'd like to know if people say they had a story, that reporters say they had a story and didn't run it. I'd like to know.
Yes, 100% Ted Cruz. Whenever, especially before he grew the beard and he was first running, all my pedodar was going off. Like, I'm just seeing pedo creep on Ted Cruz, or at least, closeted gay. But that can be hard to tell with Southern men, right? There's a certain kind of American Southern man that has a bit of this, like, lispy, wispy kind of thing going on. And so I don't know, it's hard to tell, but then over and over again, I see Ted Cruz saying the shit that's on my mind and speaking clear. So who knows? So maybe he got to power through conventional means and owes some favors, and there's some Epstein shit over his head, because sometimes he seems like a complete classic loser politician. Sometimes he seems just like totally like one of the Pauls or a Maxime Bernier or something, where you're just like, oh yes, wow, this guy's saying what we're all thinking, and highly active on special committees in the Senate, doing deep work. Yeah, I really got questions about Ted Cruz. I'm not sure. I'm sure Kate Spade was murdered by Clinton. What? Why did he perform with her? Did he have a dalliance with Kate Spade, or did she knew something? Huh. You have to look into that. Gee, this is a great night. Great movie. Great crowd. Excellent points here. Ted Cruz looked like he was running PR for Zuckerberg. Right. It's just been messy with Cruz. I mean, when he was, I wasn't really aware of him until Trump ran, honestly. And I fully thought he was just like pedo or the classic Christian closeted gay type. But as soon as he got that beard, he turned into a mofo. I'm not sure what that is. Just like sheer male hair power there going on. I don't know.
Know why they didn't tell the story in the last 10 years.
You mean the CIA talent in Mockingbird CIA News didn't report on this? Just another day in Hollywood.
I would have liked to have known this. That this man was assaulting women and was silencing women.
Harvey, why'd you hire Black Q?
For days like this.
Kate was hung the same way as some other Clinton murders.
The tools and operations developed by government intelligence agencies have become available to the private sector. Spies, covert and private investigators, standard
Mossad,
agency actions from governments around the world available to those who can afford it.
Oh, this motherfucker. This guy is so fucking fake. Frank Sinatra Jr., Woody Allen's quote-unquote son. Kicked off Me Too, and it's utter bullshit. Everything this guy says is bullshit.
I don't think most people are aware of the exotic and extreme tools at the disposal of the most powerful and wealthy men in America when they are bent at silencing accusations against them.
You guys ever seen the picture side by side of him with Frank Sinatra?
Love tweeted
with
Saturday
20-year-old Frank
saying,
Sinatra?
although I wasn't one of his victims, I was eternally banned by CAA for speaking out against Harvey Weinstein.
So that would explain the smear campaign to like try to blame Courtney for Cobain's death. Hey, if they hated her. God, interesting.
Epstein was hiding in plain sight. We all knew about him. We all knew what he was doing. But we had no one that was, no legal aspect that would go after him. They were afraid of him. For whatever reason, they were afraid of him.
We've seen the same thing happen with Epstein with these scientists that we saw happen in Hollywood and we saw happen up on Wall Street in New York, where he starts spreading money around.
The scientist who's funded by Jeffrey Epstein is creating these interactive dolls that go into the bedroom of some little girl that records what she's saying, watches what she's doing, feeds this information back to some system somewhere, some mainframe. The fact that Epstein's behind it, you have to ask, what was the plan?
Okay, wow, that just kind of scared me, as well as give it up for little Sophia, everybody. Bye-bye. I love that.
And my guess is it represents some very powerful structure that we tripped over, that this was constructed. I mean, we have a very famous case of a guy named Eli Cohen, who was fitted with a backstory and became a playboy in Damascus and held orgies, if I understand correctly, where he collected information and leverage against people in the Syrian government.
Oh wow, that's what that Baron Cohen movie's about, that guy?
Similar. We've got a guy who was a parent.
Love the Weinsteins, by the way. I mean, everybody has fun bashing on the old intellectual dark web guys, you know, because they've gotten so famous now, so of course they have to be psyops. But I've never seen people with such a command over language and knowledge as the Weinstein brothers. They're truly exceptional people. Don't have to agree with everything they say, but they are incredible dudes. I mean, you know, Eric here, he can wax eloquently on stuff like this, you know, geopolitics and history, and also submit mathematical theories for the existence of the universe. So. Always excited to hear from him.
A math teacher at a private high school, and the next thing we know, he's avoided jail in some sort of financial scandal, and he's suddenly set up as a mystery financier.
So this is still Kate Spade we're talking about? The ex-husband came out wearing a rat mask. Looked like he was saying she was killed for being a rat for speaking out against Weinstein. Epstein. Right. Whoa. So, Mariangela and everyone in chat, have you read any of Whitney Webb's book? Two-part book, Nation Under Blackmail? A deep dive on all this stuff. We haven't gotten to, you know, modern times I'm in the first book. They're both biblical-sized books, and I'm up to about Prohibition times, 1920s-ish, and it's just wild. I can't wait to get into this. Going to be interesting to see if she brings up this Kate Spade stuff. It's going to be fascinating. But Whitney Webb, One Nation Under Blackmail, 2-part books, available on Audible. If you've moved away from reading physical books like I mostly have, they're on Audible. So give her One Nation Under Blackmail, and it's all CIA shit, all mob shit, all rich sex orgy, New York Jew blackmail stuff. It's bonkers.
With connections to absolutely everyone in the top echelons of power.
I know that Jeffrey was selling arms.
How do you know that?
Where the money comes from, nobody knows. If you want to get somebody in the show, you'll never get them, but Leslie Wexner, the fellow who owned the Limited and Victoria's Secret, and was very involved with Epstein in terms of business, as much as we know.
Okay, so he would know. He would know where
He knows some
Epstein's
stuff. I
money
mean,
comes
he
from.
had something to do with Epstein getting that 28,000 square foot apartment.
Red and
which
blue. What's that?
I don't
I've never
know,
seen that
It seemed like
broadcast.
Epstein never paid for it. How could we, since 2006, not pay any attention to the story?
When I met Jeffrey Epstein,
And then we have to remember, everyone again, find my Metabiota videos. The people that are at the core of the pre-pandemic setup are all tied in with Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. It's bonkers.
which might have been something like 2002, before he was charged with sex crime violations in Florida. It was like somebody created a Gatsby-like character out of a Ralph Lauren lookalike who had apparently recently been a math teacher at a private high school. Nothing added up. I did not believe that Jeffrey Epstein was a hedge fund manager, and I in fact called my wife at the time and I said, "This man appears to be a construct." And she said, "What do you mean by a construct?" I said, "It's like they've hired an actor to play a hedge fund manager."
Wow. God, this is a good movie. Thank you, Yukon Steph, for bringing this to my attention. Holy crap.
We did hear that today, apparently, President Trump had some sort of falling out with Epstein, but he didn't elaborate. We do know that he did kick him out of Mar-a-Lago at one point. What can you tell us about that?
Well, there are two incidents there. One was apparently there was a member and Epstein was inappropriate with the member's daughter. The other piece, and I interviewed a woman who would run the spa there, and I said, did you know Jeffrey Epstein?
Just Web's Unlimited Hangout online articles. She's become Bitcoin maven. Yeah? Really? Huh. I've usually heard her speak about digital coin with cynicism. Interesting. Herding fear folk into yet another digital corral for later tagging, I figure. Interesting. Yeah, I'd have to see some extra support for that claim. If Whitney Webb's a psyop, then we're in big trouble.
Epstein, she said, oh yes. She said he used to come over to the spa, and I found him to be inappropriate with the girls, the young girls there. And she said, I went to Mr. Trump, and he threw him right out.
Yes.
Epstein used blackmail to manipulate people. Maintaining a control file is a very old trick of the agencies and still used today. French modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel has started agencies with Epstein, and both share a long history.
It's a meat market. You are there for the purpose of somebody wanting to take you home to bed. He's got the agency, he's got the girls. His friends say, oh, Jean-Luc, I'd like to meet some girls, or we're having a party tonight. Can you bring some girls? And what happens if you say no? You don't work.
Wow, right. Holy shit. Yeah, there's a whole other world out there, people. What I never understand about this is, I certainly understand the girl's perspective, and it's horrific, of course, but I understand the perspective. As she's outlining clearly, I want work, I want to become a supermodel, I want to get the money, I got to do a couple gross things to get there. I do it, right? And that doesn't make it justified. It's just I can see the girl's position. What I don't get is the man's position. How does this stay interesting and exciting? You're a mogul of an industry of creating supermodels. You're the talent. You have the casting couch. You can get almost any girl you want. And if they don't want you, you can fire them. I mean, it's like an ideal dream. It's like an ideal jerk-off dream. But as in real life, jerking off is over in 15 minutes. I don't get why this stays electrifying and exciting for these men to do this. I just can't figure it out. I can't relate. Like, to have empty, meaningless, abusive sexual encounters with people, how that can possibly stay rewarding? And, I'm going to conjecture that the answer is that they don't. They don't stay rewarding, and you have to keep getting more and more depraved and more degenerate to get something going. And this is the birth of pederasty. This is the birth of all things that are evil in the sexual relations in our world right now are born from this, from billionaires that just can't get enough. They're looking for a new thrill, and it's got to get worse and worse and younger and weirder. I have real trouble with this. Like, I don't know I don't know how you can be a man and pursue this when you're 18, 19, 20, and the hormones are firing and the blood is boiling. Gonna do all sorts of weird shit. I'm sure all of us have some stories from that time. But as you're looking at these like 50-year-old, 60-year-old, and 90-year-old successful men still doing this, rotating girls through, like, what's the fucking point? It absolutely gets me. Let's hit some comments here. Jonathan: no, I think she's just working a biz angle, but it works for other people's stratagems. Web? Yeah, maybe. I'm not up on this. I haven't heard her ever say, everybody go get Bitcoin. I have heard her say, I'm holding some Bitcoin. But I've only heard her speak with, extreme skepticism about the whole crypto scene. Mariangela says, it's not any girl, it's every girl. Yeah. Yeah.
You actually have known that he has made someone pay a professional penalty for saying no.
I know, I paid a penalty for saying no.
But his usefulness eventually came to an end. Epstein and Jean-Luc both died in prison.
Yeah, Mariangela, I think that's
allegedly.
the spiral, and I think that this is, because I think Peterson's talked about it, but I heard this theory long before Peterson that, a person sexually imprints based on their first encounters, right? So even if you don't like your first encounter and it's scary or something like that, that awfulness and that fear will turn into what will turn you on as an adult later. So I think, and I'm just theorizing because I'm not trained in this field, but who cares? It seems obvious to me that this is where this vast break in society is happening with, like, raging, uncontrolled sexual perversion is creating this whole second society that lives underneath us, that is an entire world that's built off of this business model, if I can be so bold to say that. And they literally turned it into a business, I mean, Epstein, and I don't know if anyone in chat has seen the canceled documentary for Discovery Network back in the 90s called A Conspiracy of Silence. You can find it on YouTube because the director of the film kept a rough cut and then leaked it. And it was fully scheduled to be viewed. It was in their online. You can find Reader's Digest or TV Digest. Sorry, TV Guide. What was it? What was that little magazine that used to get put out? TV Guide, and the listings for all the networks Discovery was going to air this on, And just a few days before it was going to be broadcast, it was canceled. And all tapes, everything was destroyed. But the director had a videotape of the rough cut, and that's up. And that's an entire conspiracy involving the Catholic boys' school, Nebraska banks, and it's just absolutely crazy, and reaches all the way up to George Bush Sr. and orgies with blackmail and videotapes, and oh my God. And you've got the Netflix documentary. This stuff's right out in the open. There's a Netflix documentary about the boy that was the first missing boy that created the milk carton missing children thing. That was based off, it started after one boy went missing. And that boy, it eventually got to the point where you had a gay man that came out a decade later saying that he was the one that took the boy, and he was taking them for a sex cult, for sex orgies. And this made it all the way to Not Unsolved Mysteries, America's Most Wanted. And America's Most Wanted sent a crew out and investigated this, and they found underground tunnels for sex orgies in the middle of the desert in like Arizona or California or something. Absolutely messed up stuff, and we as a culture are turning a blind eye to it. And this is why QAnon was so successful. QAnon was so successful, which I think is probably an op, but it was so successful because it plugged into this need. I think we all know, whether we really know it, we know it one way or another, that this is the true disease in our society, and we'll never win out as long as we allow this kind of stuff to happen. Because we're always going to have these broken people, these children that are completely busted, being led out into society, and they're going to be looking to bust other children as they go through life until we've nipped this in the bud. And then you see films like Sound of Freedom that came out, what was that, last year, 2 years ago. You see the pushback that got from mainstream media. It was a MAGA conspiracy theory, fake news film, and all this stuff. I think this is the real problem. I think this is what we have got to go after this. I don't suck at life, Janice says. What was it called? What do you mean? What was what called? Got to watch it with the pronouns, guys. Just as in real life, we have to be careful with the pronouns. Jonathan, that is, cults traumatize infants, and if it sticks, they have potential sociopath and malleable. Yes. Usually this wears off after a decade or so, no matter how awful, unless re-up by joining in. Yeah, and I think even most victims of this kind of behavior are going to be okay. And they're going to clear up, and we're humans, and you see around you and everything's okay. But in a lot of circumstances, it's not going to be okay. And these are going to make those crazy people that are going to continue pederasty. They're going to continue shooting up theaters. They're going to continue, doing anything. They're going to be, in a way, MK Ultra'd, whether that's the exact program or not, whatever. But they're going to be open to being abusive and abused in the future, and make headlines when they do crazy shit. Like, this is a really, really deep problem that we have to get on real quick. And Jonathan says, 500,000 kids disappear each year in America. This is institutional. Yes, and there's no shortage of reports from, boy, if I knew we were going to go this way, I would have prepared better. There was a guy coming out in, Y2K zone who was a former detective in California. And he's got absolutely wild stories of the shit they found. They found, again, tunnels underneath daycares in California. And then they laugh at us when we conjecture on Pizzagate. Mary Angela says 30,000 quote-unquote unaccompanied minors lost into the United States so far since the border was reopened. Right. And I mean, geez, like they like to say that we are worried about the border because we're racist, but here's a fantastic reason that we should be much more worried about these border problems, because it's all these like unaccompanied kids that are being pulled in for God knows what. I don't second like the documentary about the Catholic boys' school in Nebraska is called Conspiracy of Silence, and it's thankfully quite easy to find on YouTube. At least, it's been years since I watched it, but it was quite easy to find on YouTube. If YouTube has found it, because they're a bunch of pederast fucking censorship assholes over there at Google, it'll be on Rumble. It's out there. Conspiracy of Silence. Put that in quotes when you search for it, and it won't take long for you to find it. Jonathan says, pass this to Matt. But Matthew Arrett, I presume you mean Transformation of America by Kathy O'Brien. I think I've seen that. Mil-spec mind control program focused on youth in Youngstown and Butler. Yes, I think I've seen that, my man. That looks very good. Yeah, it's Boys Town. That was the name I couldn't remember earlier. So Boys Town, and I think that's Nebraska, and made famous by a Kirk Douglas film. Like these Catholic saints are taking care of these poor orphan boys, but it turns out they're just, I don't even want to use the word grooming, because now grooming is being used on the internet. These words are losing their meaning. Grooming is now being used on the internet to explain like a 21-year-old going out with a 17-year-old, which is like, on its face, it's like a little kind of gross. It's not going to work out, but why the 21-year-old is dating the 17-year-old, But this is hardly pederasty. But, at Boys Town, they were doing literal grooming. This was a literal program to pick out boys, get them ready, and then put them into service for this banker, Franklin. Franklin is his name. Really weird, fat, like 80s kind of prince, but fat and gross gay banker who was in charge of all these savings and loans. He was like a mogul in Nebraska. And whoever thinks anything happens in Nebraska, but it turns out lots of shit happens in Nebraska. So Conspiracy of Silence. We got to get on that. All right. Sorry for the giant side stream, but I think that was a very good side stream. We'll get back in and see what's up with fucking Jeffrey Epstein here. God.
Eventually came to an end. Epstein and Jean-Luc both died in prison by suicide.
Oh, no way. Jean-Luc didn't kill himself.
Defeating the USSR, we thought we escaped controlling how people think. But Hollywood eventually became what it was used to fight against, controlling how people think. The massive network.
There's another doc that interviewed 100 gays, all talking about their rape. It was 100% of the guys in one gay bar. Wow. All said, they always say they were born this way, knowing different. Right. So, this is one of the things I've really tussled with over life. Back in my high school days, I was like a musician, artsy fartsy, thought of myself as a mega liberal at the time, right? The definitions have changed a lot. And even got involved with like a after school group in which the gay geography teacher, he joined us and he talked about being gay. And the way he told it, it was extremely convincing that he's always been that way. So that was, I always took that to heart. But then been in lots of experiences after that. I think a real moment for me was that I was at a birthday party for one of my really good friends, but she's a really freaky lady. She's got a very checkered past, and there were lots and lots of gays at the birthday party. And there was one group, one gaggle, I would say it'd be fair to call them. They were super queenie, kind of classic, what we think of on social media as the gays. Really queenie and femmy. And they would hover around her at the birthday party all night long, and like if it was straight men, it would be flirting. and they were like constantly referencing her boobs and her body and kind of trying to touch it and stuff like that. Then there was another group of gays that were you wouldn't know. They're totally present as straight. You'd have no idea. And then another group that were like they hated those flirty gays because they would the type of gays that would actually retch at the idea of seeing a vagina. And they looked kind of girlish in a physical way. They didn't act like girls. They looked kind of dykey. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but that changed my life. I think there are the ones that are queenie and make up the loudest portion of gay culture right now are ones that were, touched by an uncle back in the day, the ones that were touched by the priest. Those are straight men that got broken and perverted in childhood. And then the ones that were like that looked more like lesbians, those are actually like too much estrogen in the womb or something when they were born, and they're totally born that way and have no choice. They like men. That's just how their brains work. But for the vast majority, I think, is because of this underground getting touched when you're way too young, and that becomes your turn on. And then as soon as that happens, then there's this entire society waiting to enrobe you and envelop you in love as long as you put out, right? That's kind of where I look at the whole gayness thing. Now, I say all of this without any judgment, especially for the femmy ones I'm talking about. These people are victims in a lot of ways. The trouble is that they're going out and they're going to perpetrate this victimhood because it was their first encounter. It turns them on. They're going to continue to do this. And the culture promotes this like crazy. The younger the better. The younger the better. Bears. Have you guys ever heard of bears? It's fat, hairy men who like twinks, little young softies. It's all built into the culture, and it's just going to keep perpetuating itself. I don't even know what the answer is. We definitely need to stop promoting it, though. Mary Angela says there's lots of learned behavior, but so much untreated trauma. Exactly, right? So, I mean, it's really hard to be mad at these people were like abused in a way as kids, right? So, I mean, it's hard to be mad at them, but they're going to go out and do it more. They're going to go out and do it again. I'm still not convinced, but we're all entitled to our opinion. Exactly, I don't suck. Yeah, but by all means, as I said, I'm just spouting off here, right? These are just my observations as far as I've gotten in life in about half a century or so, right? I've seen some shit, and that's kind of where I'm at. And as I say all this without judgment. These are observations in a scientific sense. Oh, Mary Angela says there's actually a gay in the documentary that talks about the first encounter, quoting his psychologist mom who's adopted a boy to be with her son. Well, that's complicated. Yeah, and Milo Yiannopoulos. We all remember him from his little 15 minutes of fame there during Trump 1 season. He was quite open about this, and that's what really got him canceled, was being open about that. That the old young thing is huge in the gay scene, and that ultimately killed his career, talking about that stuff. All right, I'm gonna pop back 10 seconds and see where we're at. 15 seconds. Oh yeah, everybody dies by hanging.
Defeating the USSR, we thought we escaped controlling how people think. But Hollywood eventually became what it was used to fight against, controlling how people think. The massive network of collusion will surprise you.
Well, the industry is severely compromised by its own politics, and that's why there's nothing good or original on any of it. So, we're living under censorship, and it's politically based. And I think the networks, particularly the one I work for, the head of my network, in his interview, Bob Iger, said the first phone call he made about my gaffe on Twitter was to Valerie Jarrett. It's all a Jussie Smollett world in TV and in entertainment, and it's all controlled, and they just use it to hate everybody so they can raise funds. It's just all a big scam from top to bottom. It's all a Jussie Smollett world.
They guide your thoughts. Division is their goal. And as long as we're occupied fighting against each other, we can't see what they're doing.
Milo is now a straight Catholic who goes to Latin Mass. Yes, well, he was always a good Catholic boy. Yeah, he was always a good Catholic boy. And the last that I saw of him talking about this, he started to do like a bit of a comeback a couple of years ago, and he's in full training. He's trying to learn to love the V. Good luck to him. That must be really, really, really difficult, especially since, he was living that life. He was living it hard. Remember, he'd do like press conferences and come down this golden staircase with like two black boys on his arm and stuff. I mean, it's going to be hard to learn to love the boobs after that. But he's, absolutely dedicated to it. I hope he's pulling it off. And that's where I kind of go off the rails with the standard story of, quote unquote conversion therapy, and that this is, the greatest evil to ever be perpetrated, when I think if there's people who are gay and they're not happy about it, if they don't like it, they don't like the life, they don't like that they're that way, they think that they should be straight, then by all means, the more money that we put into doing healthy conversion therapies, the better. I probably just destroyed the YouTube video there. All right, back to it.
Jussie Smollett convicted on 5 of the 6 counts he was facing after being accused of staging a hate crime.
A fake hate crime to pass a lynching bill.
The idea that we would not be taking the issue of lynching seriously is an...
Yes, and that also coincided with the NASCAR driver who found the quote-unquote noose in his garage, which turned out to just be the garage pull for the door.
insult. An insult to Senator Booker, to Senator Tim Scott, and myself, and all of the senators, past and present, who have understood this is part of the great stain of America's history. Mr. President, in 2018, the Senate unanimously passed bipartisan anti-lynching legislation, which I proudly introduced with the only other black members of this body, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Tim Scott. It was a historic moment. It marked the first time in the history of our country that federal anti-lynching legislation had been passed by the United States Senate. It passed again by unanimous consent in 2019. This is a
And nobody in this body needs a lecture on lynching and how horrible it is.
I used to always tell reporters when they would try to stir up trouble between our camps, I would say, wait a minute, Kamala is my sister and there's some sibling rivalry, but don't let it be mistaken. In the end, she will always be family.
But this publicity stunt was a scar that Chicago didn't earn and certainly didn't deserve. To make things worse, the accusations within this phony attack received national attention for weeks. Celebrities, news commentators, and even presidential candidates weighed in on something that was choreographed by an actor.
Why did they need, I mean, lynching legislation would have been probably helpful in 1870.
Manufacturing evidence, fake tweets, fake texts, fake conversations, which would be a crime if any of us presented them in a court of law. But they get to do it.
Special Prosecutor Dan Webb says Kim Fox in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office may have violated legal ethics by abusing its discretion. Fox's office initially charged the actor with 16 counts and then, in an unannounced hearing, dropped the case.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Is it me or is Tulsi Gabbard glistening in that shot?
Okay.
And I inhale. I did inhale.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki confirms that 5 White House staffers are no longer employed for their previous marijuana use.
OMG, it's like you were saying earlier. The weekly weed deliveries.
NXIVM, having been exposed for running a sex cult with human trafficking and domestic slavery, reveals the dark side of Hollywood. With a lengthy list of actresses being involved and charged with crimes. It was also discovered that members were asked to donate to Hillary Clinton while also being paid back in order to bypass campaign donation limits on behalf of Claire Bronfman, who pled guilty for her involvement. These are campaign finance violations.
The Bronfmans.
Her father has a
Classic.
long history with the
Seagrams.
Clinton family and even received the Medal of Freedom from Bill Clinton. The coalition of Hollywood and the Democrat Party is crystal clear. And NXIVM even funded a children's program called the Rainbow Cultural Garden. Our youth are the most susceptible, and CAA influences children. Their foundation funds STEM, Teach America, Black Lives Matter, and the Sunrise Movement, supported by Democrats. They remind me of a 60s and 70s youth movement.
Yeah, they are. We're not looking at it from a place of, can we do this? Are we the right people? Is this the right time? Like, we have no other choice.
My state cannot lose here. It is life or death for Kentucky right now.
There's no way to be committed to nonviolence in the middle of the most violent society that history's ever created.
The Weathermen are the militant faction of the Students for a Democratic Society. Only one of the 13 is now in custody.
This system is going to be overthrown. It's going to mean a fight. And it's going to mean a lot of white people risking a lot of things when they finally join on the side of the black people and the people of Vietnam and around the world who have already begun the fight.
We are making them face us. We are making them see the future. And we are making this issue an unavoidable political priority in this country. And you are a part of that.
That group, the Sunrise Movement, has public school teachers recruiting in the classroom from as young as middle school age. And it's an organization that motivates students to break laws. In order to get their agents of change into positions quicker, Teach America has an expedited process to get new teachers into the classrooms faster, where they influence the minds of young children.
NTD News. I don't know them either.
Reality
have to check them
hacking.
out.
Resulting in some classrooms functioning as indoctrination centers for the New World Order, supported by the Democrat and Republican parties. In the same way, the USSR demanded everyone conform to one way of thinking. This targeting of susceptible youth has the same goal.
Standing here at the center of our nation's power, I can think only of everyone who's been made to feel powerless by their abusers, by a system that failed to protect them. Anyone who's been in those situations will tell you just how far they feel from the power concentrated here in this building. The power to pass laws that might have prevented their pain in the first place. The idea of sovereignty of a family home is being used to abuse the members within it.
Wait, they want to end sovereignty of the home? Take away.
Jonathan, a thread for Matt H. to pull. Matt Errett to pull. It's Matt E. Matt Errett to pull is the Prohibition bootleggers via OSS, yeah, for WW2, then moved into defense. The Crown Heir as example, he sells bombs to IDF while wife campaigns for gun control at home. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, in fact, If you go to CanadianPatriot.org, that's Matthew's site, I'll bet you if you just put in Prohibition or Bootlegger or Bronfman into the search on the site, you'll probably find giant articles on this stuff. And I think it's a great idea. Agreed 100% that we dive into that.
Away parents' rights? So the hidden objective of this actor is to give the government more rights over children. BuzzFeed releases a decades-long investigation into CIA sex crime.
BuzzFeed. Yeah, how's that working out, BuzzFeed? Mariangela, most people don't know about the Weathermen and the Weather Underground. Yes. Militaristic teachers. Like how they're using the SS Joy propaganda now. We need to be able to recognize propaganda, especially when it's so often repeated. Yeah, Weather Underground is literally teachers. The leader of Weather Underground became the person who was writing the programs for education underneath Clinton, Obama. Absolutely wild shit. Jonathan, oops, funny. With autocorrection, maybe the best spelling yet. Incomprehensible archives to read. Yes, agreed. The struggle with autocorrect is real.
Crimes. Over the past 14 years, the Central Intelligence Agency has secretly amassed credible evidence that at least 10 of its employees and contractors committed sexual crimes involving children. Only one of the individuals was ever charged with a crime because the agency wanted to protect its sources and methods.
Hollywood is the one that keeps all this power structure and all this culture of racism and sexism and classism and genderism and all of it in place. They continually feed it, and they make a lot of money doing it. And they do it at the behest of their masters who run
Notice how
everything.
much RT they're showing tonight.
Operation, but overlooked until recently, is Davos World Economic Forum. Unifying political power, nonprofits, and corporations with ideas of world citizens who own nothing, and they will be happy.
Here we
go. The idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change.
Our bodies will be so high-tech, we won't be able to really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
I will be. Fuck you.
That's transhumanism, the merging of humans with computers and machines for global control nonetheless. But did anyone vote for this?
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
Biological knowledge multiplied by computing power, multiplied by data, equals the ability to hack humans.
Yuval Harari.
A system that understands us better than we understand ourselves, can predict our feelings and decisions, can manipulate our feelings and decisions, and can ultimately make decisions for us. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon,
oh God,
the agencies have been hacking human minds for decades.
At least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We are now hackable animals.
Not only psychologically hacking humans, they're hacking biologically too.
In different corners of the globe, pioneering scientists use completely different ways of turning the coronavirus into a vaccine.
We're aiming to have something that's ready to go into humans in 16 weeks' time.
The shape of the coronavirus spike protein before the virus meets our cells is what triggers the most protective antibody response. So Keith must make the spike protein in the lab, locking it into exactly the same shape by adding another protein that acts a bit like a clamp. And that protein is a tiny fragment of HIV.
Is a tiny fragment of HIV.
Yesterday, Moderna began clinical trials for an HIV vaccine. It developed the shot with the nonprofit International AIDS Vaccine Initiative. Like the COVID vaccine, it uses mRNA technology to teach our cells how to fight HIV.
Oh my God. They tried mRNA in the fucking 80s. This is where it all comes from, was to try to make an AIDS vaccine. And now through COVID, they're just going to automatically try to get it through. Now that mRNA has been proving successful, they're just going to make a new AIDS vaccine. Yeah, I know. I don't suck at life. Exactly. Jonathan, nice interlude chatting. Agreed. Are you taking off? Is that a sign-off from you? I hope not. You've been a great chatter tonight. Allison, it's about time. Jeez, I only have to stream for 2.5 hours to get your attention. Hi, Jay. Just a little late topic to nod out. LOL. Yeah, exactly. I have to go back to sleep, but thank you for your work. Thank you, Allison, for sticking with us. You've been there since day one on the convoy. You and Mary Angela and many of the others here, it's so great. We're trying to redouble our efforts on YouTube so that it can be a viable platform for us. So we're going to be nice little boys on YouTube and try to get the YouTube channel lit up again, not piss them off too much, and play nice with them while putting all the dirty shit on Rumble and Twitter. Great to hear from you, girl. Love ya. Yeah, good night, Allison, from everybody. Called Gene driving. Yeah, well, let's go driving. yeah, LOL, love you. You're all right, Allison. I don't care what everybody else says. Jonathan, I thought you were leaving. I'm just up and making coffee. Oh, no, yeah, we're all good, man. We're all good. Good night to all from Allison. We'll see you next time, Allison. We'll be streaming on YouTube a lot more. We've been ignoring it because they're such censorious bastards, but we're going to put extra effort in to try to make it work on YouTube. All right, back to the very light topic show tonight.
When you see it all, the world seems a mess and growing dark.
It's natural to turn to the election of politicians and civic leaders to help lead us out of a crisis.
But the sad reality is, the agency and the Global Alliance decides.
I've used this exact stock footage as well for film. Her editor must have the same memberships that I do for stock footage.
Who gets to run and who gets to debate?
Now to an extraordinary development in the presidential campaign. Hillary Clinton, the 2016 nominee, called Tulsi Gabbard, one of the current candidates, quote, the favorite of the Russians.
Yes.
On a podcast interview, Clinton said, quote, they're grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far.
Presidential hopeful Tulsi Gabbard addressing a defamation lawsuit filed today against Hillary Clinton, seeking $50 million after lawyers for Gabbard say she suffered actual significant and professional damages.
Wonder what happened with that.
Not stand by and allow Hillary Clinton or anyone else to smear me as a traitor to the country that I love. So the lawsuit that I filed is to hold her accountable for those defamatory statements that she made.
The only woman candidate left in the race, the only woman of color, and the first female combat veteran ever to run for the presidency has a voice. The DNC and their corporate media partners say, no thanks.
As of now, the criteria doesn't work. You're not going to be there.
Nonsense. We know Putin favors Kamala. Of course he does.
They have changed
Wouldn't
it.
Putin love it if Kamala got in?
Team at times to include people.
So after Super Tuesday, based on the
He
qualifications,
even said that he would have preferred that Hillary won.
Back in 2016, we put out
No
a
wonder.
call for nominations, trying to capture the diversity of background, of experience of the American electorate, the people that aren't currently represented in office. We got over 10,000 nominations. Out of those 10,000 nominations, we found Alexandria.
I can just tell by the way she
told me
gesticulates
that he had sent my nomination
that I don't
in the
like
summer,
her.
But I was like literally working out of a restaurant, and I was like, "There's no way."
A casting call. They had a casting call. They cast Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the role of Congresswoman, and they did this so they could promote their own agenda.
Don't talk about the mole. Moley, moley, moley. Moley, moley, moley. Don't talk about the mole.
And they did this so they could promote their own agenda. Bring in people in a nominating process, and then they would go over their resume and hire them in the same way that you would hire an actress, right? And the idea was that they write the script and these congressmen read the script, right? And they talk about this in their video. They say, well, you didn't have any interest in running for office before us, right? And she's like, no.
You hadn't thought about running for office or anything at that point, right?
No.
The people who voted for AOC didn't know that she was just parroting, some writer's script.
Wow.
Shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And it explained her. It totally explained her. How she was saying exactly what Justice Democrats were saying 4 years before. She obviously got the script.
Politicians are actors too, working for special interests or whatever agency cast them.
That's that same stock United Nations footage right there. I've used that too. Not gonna lie.
And they stick to the script. This is more common and has been happening for a lot longer than people realize. From a 1990 article on political party recruitment, citing a 1985 survey of county party leaders across the United States, found that 62% of Democratic leaders and 64% of Republican leaders claimed that their organizations were very or somewhat involved in the recruitment of congressional candidates. Also finding that Republican recruitment efforts were substantially increased in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Politicians for many decades have been cast in their roles and expected to stay on script. Do these representatives work?
Use
for the
that shot
voters?
too.
Or do they work for political parties who selected them and the corporations who fund their election and re-election? Our government system has long lost being of, by, and for the people.
The founding fathers would be so angry.
Working in the intelligence agencies, you learn to protect information with disinformation, hiding facts and truths from enemies, and letting them see lies to decoy them.
Oh, cool.
Covering the intelligence community is mosaic. It's a puzzle. You protect each piece because you don't know what piece someone else is missing.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Truth is the answer to the deceptions. To overcome the psyops and reality hacking, a human cannot be deprogrammed with direct information. They have to draw direct information themselves to break the spell. Stand on the moon and look back to see the big picture. The subversion of the Constitution of the United States of America.
Oh my
through
God,
the
I've used that
networks of
shot
power that
of the
exist.
Constitution too.
The fourth unelected branch of government. Take ownership of your nation. Research them. The networks of funding, Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, world controlling groups, the media empire, ABC, CNN, CBS, Fox News, NBC, entertainment, sports, military generals, CIA assets, propaganda. It's all a big show. A manufacturing of consent. A psychological operation. Everything you have been presented has hacked your reality. You need to own the knowledge and information yourself. You must do the work of research and establish facts for yourself.
Club of Rome, so important, yes.
How do you destroy a tank? From the inside.
As citizens of the United States in the second half of this century, we are learning to live with some uncomfortable realities. We live in a sort of ethical coexistence. We have created another weapon system of secret and subversive action. This, too, given the state of the world, may have been inevitable. The CIA, it is on active duty in a constant, secret, dirty war.
It's digging a big, deep hole for the United States, and the sad thing is that the CIA is an unconstitutional and extra-constitutional organization. It functions illegally.
Notice how she can only mention it and not get into it. Okay, yeah, we'll have to see.
1,000 Pieces is a reference to JFK when he said he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces after the Bay of Pigs.
Yukon Steph, who turned me on to this, she said that Tori does multiple episodes and topics, and maybe she's dived into it further.
The people who voted for AOC didn't know that she was just
subvert from within.
Some writer's script.
It's like they've hired an actor to play a hedge fund manager.
I was eternally banned by CAA for speaking out against Harvey Weinstein. Hollywood is the
picking up the pace with the music. We're heading towards the big button at the end. Hopefully,
their masters who run everything.
Today, they're taking almost half of every dollar earned in the United States.
The problem we have is how to reconcile the necessity of the CIA with its secret offenses against our public morality.
I think probably Hollywood is full of CIA agents, and we just don't know it.
The most important question to ask yourself is, who decides your future?
There's no line between the two?
No, Justice Scalia, I would say
agencies and their actors, or you? Behold the theater of war, where all the world's a stage. It's time to stand up. We are the news now. The power of the pen is in your hands. Run non-compromised, non-corporate funded candidates for office. It's time to take back our power. Rescue our captured constitutional freedoms in this unknown war. This invisible war. Agencies, reality hacking through your culture. It's decision time.
It had to be snakes.
Spectator or participant? You choose. In the meantime, enjoy the show.
Oh, nice button. Nice button. All right, girl. So, what a great film. It's exactly the kind of films that I'm making for my clients. I've got to connect with this woman. Maybe I should rip some of her tweets and make a little film out of it, get her attention. I'd love to make films for this lady. Absolutely incredible. Like, Am I Alone Here? That was an amazing, amazing film. So where I would go from here is that the only reason that we're watching this and I'm connecting with you and that we can share this is because of the internet. So we need to protect this because they're coming after us now. As we've already identified how they are, the Telegram guy, they're taking him down, threatening him with imprisonment for running a service that can't be cracked by the CIA, censorship on YouTube. I've already spoken about how we've had to change our behavior on YouTube if we want that to be viable. That we collectively work towards creating our own internet. absolutely, totally federated and unstoppable, untakedownable websites and peer-to-peer information networks. It's going to be difficult and complicated, but I'm working on it. We need the meme of the dude tapping his noggin. I know. We're working on it. Because they're coming for us. So we need to get our videos, we need to get our chats, we need to get our socials completely federated from the standard backbone of the internet, and we need to do this tomorrow. So I'm working on it. What my dream is to create a turnkey solution so that, say, my clients in Montreal can just go, hey, look, they're trying to censor us. What can we do? And I can just throw them to a site, hit one button, pay $50 or whatever, and boom, you've got a completely isolated Web3 federated distributed network. Your video's on there and no one can ever take it down. So we need to do that moving forward in the future. And the other thing I wanted to say is that we need to get involved locally in politics. And this can be dreadfully boring. The girl who recommended this video to me tonight lives around the corner, which in Yukon terms means, like 10 miles away from me up here. Informed me that there was a barbecue going for the local Yukon party, which is a feeder party for the Conservative Party up here. And just went to the barbecue. We had a hamburger, and I got to meet my local MLA and ask him some questions and talk about the future and that kind of thing. We need to do this. So, and I asked him what events we can go to, this kind of stuff. We need to get involved at the local level of politics, because this is what happened to us 70 years ago. Our local politics got taken over by far-left radicals, and we're now reeling. We need to get involved and make them real. So we need to, whatever floats your boat, go to local riding association meetings and set up picnic tables for their barbecue or whatever for a few months. But eventually, you'll be noticed, you'll be trusted, and then you can get in and you can become a voting member on the board of your local riding association and force the Conservative Party of Canada or Republicans in America. You can force them to take up stances on certain policies if you get involved. Join your local school board. Join your library board. And get rid of books that encourage pederasty. This kind of thing, So the two things are federate the internet so that we'll always have a way to talk to each other like this, because this is magic. A whole bunch of brilliant people are in chats. I've reached tonight 300 people just from deciding I was going to stream. I didn't even plan this out as a big event. There's no big guest. But I'm talking with 300 people, smart people who want to hear this stuff. We need to protect this, because each of the methods that I'm reaching you by tonight can be completely shut down by evil legislation if, far leftists get in power. Mariangela, thank you for joining. It means all the more that you were here and being active. Jonathan, agreed, love her stuff. Yeah, this is incredible. I can't wait to deep dive on Tori Says' channels, because this was incredible. What an amazing video. We need to keep talking back to the media. People need to actually help fund God media that's being produced. Go buy tickets to good movies, support your friends. Yeah. There is a lot going on. I mentioned it earlier, Sound of Freedom was a great example where someone busted through, a bunch of Christian conservatives busted through the Hollywood game, and got a blockbuster film put out there that people paid attention to, and it made shitloads of money from them, even though it was practically blacklisted. We need to fund the arts that are good media, good movies. Speak with your pocket. Go to the movies on opening weekend when you see a good piece come out. Yeah, we do. We really need, and we need to. It's tough because on the right, everyone is so hurt and so distrustful and so cynical that once a buzz goes around that there is a good piece of media, or there is a good creator on YouTube, or there is something good happening, immediately everyone goes to, well, that's a psyop, and I'm going to be cool, and I'm not going to take part. And this is ultimately kicking ourselves in the ass. Anything, I think, that sounds remotely like what we want, we should support, and then see if that then becomes, a counter message, and maybe you've been psyoped. But when something cool comes out, take part, share it around, share channels that you like, because these are the things that boost the algorithms. And the algorithm, as much as we talk about how it is politically perverted, at the end of the day, the algorithm really cares about views and subscriptions and likes, and that's really all that counts on all of these platforms. And that's why we can watch, all of us follow people that on YouTube that are far more outrageous than Super. We're not remotely as outrageous as many channels that I follow day to day on YouTube, but they've got likes and follows and subscribers. They're getting hundreds of thousands of views, and YouTube dare not take action against them. Jonathan, I worked on secure document systems for human rights workers smuggling docos out of dictatorships under EFF in 2000. We'll look into modern versions. They, quote unquote, need internet even more than we do. Yes, agreed. They, quote unquote, they want it for themselves. That's my worry for the future. Mariangela says you can't just dismantle, you have to have something to put in its place. Exactly, right? And this is the problem with postmodernism and the left, is all they do is dismantle. I think for the most part, conservatives, by the very nature of the name, want to conserve what was already good. So for us, sometimes we have to come up with the direction. What we really need is just leaders who are willing to speak up for the directions that we already had. A leader that would defend Christianity, that would defend the Constitution, that would defend the pillars of the society that we've built that is so successful. We don't really need to express what the new thing is. They do, because they're the ones that they think they're having a revolution. They think they're going to take over everything. It's a revolution, and everybody's going to be DEI, and everybody's going to be gay, and everybody's going to be colored, and it's all going to be wonderful. But they don't really say what that's going to look like. And they need to bring up the replacements. We just need to have voices and leaders in public spaces that unabashedly stand up for what we had, past tense, and get back to it. And to make heroes out of mothers, and to make heroes out of workers, and to make heroes out of normal people in Canada, not weirdos. But allow for weirdos to be weirdos. By all means, every culture benefits from having a total weirdo stream. That's where you get really good music and movies and stuff like that from, is from the weirdos. But they need to be weird. If we make weird normal, we won't have good music. We won't have good movies. And we're already seeing it with this massive crash in the gaming industry and in Hollywood with Disney and all these companies. They're going all in on woke, thinking that all their friends that are artistic are woke, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work. Woke, weird people need to remain weird, or that's the only way you get good culture. It's the only way you get incisive, exciting movies is from weirdos that are on the outside. If we try to make the outside into the inside, we'll have nothing. We'll have laws that make no sense. We'll have movies that make no sense. We'll have music that is bland and completely inoffensive. And we're well into that now. We're years into that. Perhaps decades into that. So we just need people in positions of public power and access that brazenly stand up for what was and what is, instead of this fake revolution that will get us nowhere. Yeah, Jonathan, woke and broken. That's like wake and bacon. All right, guys, it's been a hoot. That's 3 hours of streaming. Thanks to Yukon Steph for recommending this. Thank you, Mariangela and Allison, for showing up. You guys are Freedom Convoy original gangsters. So good to see you back on the stream. Make sure we reconnect and get up to date on anything that's happened in your lives. Mariangela says she's hiding out in the U.S. I need to hear about that. Before we go, I Don't Suck says, I hate the term woke. It implies everyone else is asleep. Well, yeah, I mean, we all use the term woke now we know what we're talking about. We're talking about postmodernist, far left intersectionalism, I mean, but I hate the term too. I hate the term right. I hate the term left. But I use the term just so we can get through conversation. We all know what we're talking about. Mariangela, thank you so much. You made the stream better. And make sure you reconnect and let us know what's going on in your world politically. Everyone watching, Mariangela is a political force of nature. And she's always up to something. So we can't wait to hear more from her and all you guys what's going on. We had several interesting tips tonight on political things going on. So let's stay connected, and we'll be back streaming something really cool soon.